So far, standing title for today is Day 4, Lift Your Way to Realization. Lifting your ways to realization. And we are live, lifting your ways to realization. So once again, we are back to the live stream. And today we are joined by the one and only Tyson Echo. He's um, has just actually today, this morning, I was just talking with Tyson and Adrian as well, the two mentors who are really spearheading this initiatives to build out the brand of exertion. Now, many of you guys have known about Frank and his journey with training and lifting and all these things, but we really also see this is not just a Frank's path, but it's really much an universal uh, ingredient factors of realization. And I hope that today we can talk more about that, of kind of building this bridge between what we can say is physical training and so-called spiritual side of it all, and how do we see it coming together. Yesterday with John's presentation, I do believe we briefly touched upon it, how John's saying that a lot of time our Western mind think physical training is maybe just for muscle building, strengthening, conditioning, all these kind of things, which is important. But in John's perspective and in John's journey, he was sharing that actually with that as the basis, now you are have opened yourself up to this greater capacity to notice your subtle energies, the aliveness, the intentionality, and how you hold your body. And with John's suffering from severe injuries from his accidents and the mental cultivation, it opens him up into this esoteric realm of internal alchemy, internal Taoist cultivation of Qigong and more. And I think Tyson and Adrian has also been talking in CC and introducing this topic about alchemical lifting or alchemical exertion, how you treat the gym, the weight, the way that you move your body as a way to not just strengthening your physicality, but also using that as a tool to deconstruct identities, to see through the illness, maybe limiting belief, uh, self-view, and all these things. And I was talking with Tyson today about, yeah, perhaps these are the ideas that we don't really see that is being mentioning out there. Because on one side of the spirituality camp, we have, say, walking meditation, but a lot of that is still, focusing on maybe the samatha aspect of it, calm your mind, stay embodied, or we have other aspect of spiritualities, like say something like dynamic meditation spearheaded by Osho, and many of that kind of like you pump your system to have an explosive release, right? So it's in regarding to a cathartic release and all these things, but it's still to release the kind of constriction so that you would feel calm, collected, and you can stay embodied. But would it be possible to so-called do vipassana through lifting? Would it be possible to use the weight, the way that you train, to penetrate deeply into the characteristic of this moment to understand what phenomenon is through lifting? I don't know whether it has been talked about. If you guys know there are some teachers or materials out there that is mentioning this, please comment and let us know, because we would love to connect them as well. But so far, we're seeing like, okay, the side that focus on lifting, this explosive, this rigorous, this precision on this regimen of training, they focus, yes, being very precise, but it's more for mere exertion's sake. And Tyson, I think, will go more into that. But how is it so that we can cultivate the virtue of exertion? How is it so that we can build out this basis of using physicality and mental and emotional all at the same time through the medium that is the gym, right? To really closing the gap between spirituality and physicality. What does that look like? So I've been working personally with Tyson's for at least 6 months now, and it's been very instrumental as well for my journey. Like I was sharing from Frank's presentation, or yesterday presentation as well, is I'm not very gifted in the domain of kinetic intelligence. I'm very stunted because of because of a lot of reason that I wasn't able to develop really any relationship with physical training. And for the longest time, I've been disembodied. And I thought that I could meditate my way out of these things. But in the last 6 months or so, through, instruction from the team, through just facing my own issues, I start to work towards this. But through working with Tyson, it's really introduced me in an entire new domains and paradigm of how to see a relationship with resistance, like physical resistance and emotional resistance, and a lot of these things. Yeah. So personally, for me, it has been very instrumental in improving my yogic capacity. It has also been very revealing on how to connect my own effort in the gym, lifting or running outside, to all these yogic maneuvers that we train in a more like classically known as meditation. Yeah. So I do believe Tyson has many perspectives, many knowledge, many observations. But yeah, how about you also introduce yourself a little bit, Tyson? Because I do know that you also are still working, coaching people in the gym. That's like you mentioned that a lot of top world-class bodybuilders go there. I think you mentioned like people go there, it's like bodyguards of Prince, or like just high-level people that is very proficient in their physicality.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Con. Yeah, that the crossroads of what you're describing is the my two loves coming together. Like it's the stuff I'm the most interested in. Um, as far as yeah, my introduction, uh, I've been resistance training like with barbells for almost 20 years now. I had the great fortune of a group of friends, myself and three others, were approached by our history teacher slash junior high football coach, and he's like, "Okay, we need to get you guys in the gym, and I'll teach you guys." So we lifted every day after school, all through high school, or all through like eighth, ninth, yeah, all the way on. We called ourselves the fellowship, and we had a real bond. Like I feel like just the hanging out, lifting weights, playing video games. Um, and I found I enjoyed the training more than the football. I mean, I enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed time with my friends. And like our senior year, we had like the first successful year in football in like a long time, in like 12 plus years. Like I enjoy sports, um, but the process of training, I came to really love. Um, and I went through over the years, I feel like several different interests and identity structures that came with it. You know, there's like after high school, I got into like mud running, like Tough Mudders and obstacle courses and stuff. Did a marathon. But a lot of it was like body aesthetic oriented. I feel like there was, you know, I think early on a deep sense of like dissatisfaction with my own body. I think body dysmorphia, a real just like my body did not feel like matched what I wanted it to be. Yeah, I remember following like Greg Plitt's workouts for quite some time and like seeing my abs for the first time, and then getting into bodybuilding, competing in it, then powerlifting, and most recently strongman. Um, last year and a half ago, did some competitions. Um, and in each of those, this like rise and fall of like my yeah, what I valued, what I thought was important to me. Somewhere in there, there's like functional mover and maybe a few others, but um, movement is is really yeah an important part of my experience. I think of everyone having like a movement accent, like you know how much tag you played as a kid, what sports you played, your exposure to a variety of movement profiles and skill sets. It's like your ability to like pick up instruments or like learn a language. It's like as you learn different ways of um, navigating and maneuvering in this vessel, um, you can learn to communicate in different ways. Yeah, I've been professionally, I've been a trainer, strength coach, personal trainer for 8 years. Before that, I worked with the the college that I did my undergrad in exercise science. I did like a year and a half internship and worked with all the athletes, running all the like group workouts and like programming for the different types of movement or athlete profiles, like what kind of energy systems you want to train for. Um, I feel like for a long time I had like a physicalist view, which I mean makes sense. But like just thinking in terms of like training energy systems and skill acquisition and strength or power, speed, endurance, and I still do. I still utilize that. But um, I'd say 2020 marked a definite shift in my paradigm. At that point, I'd already been meditating for at least like kind of more casually, but still like interested and consistently for a few years. But when the shutdowns happened, I felt like I remember the first like week or two, it was almost like this fever dream where I was like I went into this like feverish state and I like mapped out kind of like okay, what are all the components for happiness and how do you know map out human well-being? And then in that as well, I decided to take on the experiment of only training my body with self-imposed resistance. And then the primary tool for that was a towel. So I committed to training with a towel only for a year, March 20 to 21, just to explore what was possible. I had a hypothesis about how much muscle mass and strength I could retain. And at that point, I'd also been dealing with some persistent low back pain for 2.5 years. And so in that year, I retained and gained a lot of strength as well as resolving persistent low back pain and like unlocked this, I think, deeper understanding about motivation and exertion and enthusiasm. And then applying that to the gym in the years after, from 21 on, I feel like I hit like a second growth spurt. Like I feel like I truly unlocked some kind of like I applied what I learned in that year into just traditional training. So,
And so to capture the context accurately,
mhm,
you have been pretty much training since middle school, high school, all the way through college. After college, be involved in training others, uh, keep expanding your understanding and your knowledge, your mastery over physical movement, hitting the gym, training all these kind of things. And then you say 5 years ago, 2020, pretty much you from going to the gym now just being with a towel, like a shower towel, to then experiment how much can you retain or even gain muscle. So it's really kind of like from how I understand it, kind of like not necessarily going from gym to kinesthetic, but it's something like new entirely.
mhm,
Not necessarily
yeah,
just at home, like doing push-up or doing pull-ups, things like that, but more like
yeah,
something different using a towel, like
yeah,
really building a new foundation from the ground up, what it means to do resistance training, what it means to exert and to press a force and then seeing how much you can stay with it. I guess
mm.
I don't know too much of the lingo of training, but would you say it's a type of like isometric isolation training or things like that that you draw inspiration from and then you experiment on that?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. Because yeah, I think it's an important piece. Like in the time since and even during, I was kind of always looking to see if anyone else was picking up what I was exploring. And I've seen it in bits and pieces, but not explicitly trained. So yeah, it started with initially isometrics. So isometric squat, isometric or deadlift, isometric bench press. Um, which if you have two towels or even just one towel, you can train the hardest position of each of those movements in an isometric way. So isometric force is where you're producing force, but your joint angles aren't changing. So if I were to push against a wall and put my whole force into it, your muscles are contracting, but the joint angle isn't changing.
Mhm.
And and so yeah, that's how it started. One of one of the greatest powerlifting coaches I think in the world, coached many platform, podium, and also world champion powerlifters, Mike Truchere, who also popularized rate of perceived exertion, like bringing it from the cardio world to the training world. Anyway,
Mm,
when the shutdowns happened, I saw he was also training with isometrics. So I was like, okay, I know there's some validity to this. But I
yeah.
decided to like just keep exploring because I felt there was something there. Um, and I think with the towel cat cow, like standing in the middle of the towel, grabbing the ends, going into a cat position, flexed spine, and then into an arched position, the cow, was kind of the aha moment of like, oh, wait a second, I can use some part of my body to resist another part of my body and create mechanical tension, especially if there's if one body area is much stronger than the other. Like I can actually make every rep a maximum rep if I have the will to do it. Um,
Mm,
and so, like, if I take my deadlift muscles versus a bicep curl, my deadlift muscles are much stronger. So then, um, in muscle physiology, you have the eccentric, which is the lengthening portion. So the muscle belly is lengthening and you're producing force, eccentric. And then concentric is the muscle belly is shortening and producing force, and isometric being producing force and not moving. Um, and in traditional training, if let's say I have a barbell bicep or a bicep curl, if I can curl concentrically 100 pounds, I can maybe lower 200 pounds. Like I'm twice as strong eccentrically than I am concentrically. As well as isometrically is kind of a halfway point. So maybe I can hold like 150 pounds, I could lower 200 pounds, and I could maximally concentrically curl 100. But with the self-imposed resistance, I I can load all three of those phases to their maximum point on every rep.
mm.
It's like kind of how people will do drop sets where they hit failure and then they go to a lower weight and then they hit failure and then go to lower weight. I could do that with every single rep. Was like if I had the will to exert, I could hold my bicep to the fire and produce 100 pounds on the concentric, 200 pounds on the eccentric, and then every rep, yeah, like I built a device to measure. It was like a whole thing.
So
Um,
yeah, so I think many things that stood out for this moment for me. Number one is like you are moving from maybe own the conventional way to train that people count, like how much you can deadlift, bro, how much you can bench, and how much you can squat. All of those were you kind of leave that behind, partly because maybe like no longer having access to the gym because of COVID, but also just like okay, I guess don't have the access, but you also don't go maybe in the route of calisthenic, like you count how many push-ups you can do or pull up or variation of that, but you're training in something new that doesn't really have a ready-made template on what it means to build an identity around it. It's just pure curiosity on what it means to exert with your body. So that's one interesting aspect. How would you train if there's no more identities? Number two point about this is what's arising in the moment is what does it have to do with meditation and awakening?
uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. The identity structure piece is a big part of what it has to do with meditation and awakening. Um, And even when I was going through that process, there was still like now a new like, oh, I'm gonna make this a thing. And I still might in a way, but it was just like, oh, like I could see how this I can gamify this and turn this into a brand and turn, minimum viable product and like um uh, and um when I was producing force, I played around with different motivational factors of like, oh, if I'm like isometrically deadlifting, I can imagine I'm like lifting a car off of a loved one, or I can like maybe channel anger or try like, but the process of because I found it actually psychologically a lot more challenging to produce force with the towel than it is in the gym. Like with the gym, I have this kind of external feedback loop that like helps me call upon my being and channeling it into an effort. And there isn't that same like easy satisfaction. And so it was interesting to try to find different ways to call upon all of my being to exert when there wasn't the normal motivational factors. And in that process, what I came to understand was the power of like enthusiasm or enjoyment.
Mm,
Like if I could tap into that sense of enjoyment, I had access to a lot more gears. I could produce a lot more force if there was that wind to it.
And would you say
Um,
that because there is this new, like you were saying about the psychological aspect of it, most likely, yeah, you train this by yourself at home or outside but by yourself. Um, there's not that ready-made of like, oh, today I bench 200 or like, oh, I just deadlifted 300 because that's how many plate on the bar that I stack onto. Now is none of that anymore.
mhm,
And then we see how intentional when we can be with each rep because you must be intentional in order to even get yourself to that point of exertion. While we see then is just revealing the mechanical aspect of a lot of time we just go to the gym and go through a movement or motion. Because would you say by that point you already are 10 years into your physical training? So a lot of things may have become kind of stale or just like, maintenance or something like that. But this is like starting from the beginning. There is no marker of progress, but you have to exert and put intent in terms of what you want to do.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, exactly. At that point, I had already gone through a lot of the different loops of identity structures and like training performance metrics. And yeah, to suddenly be faced with um, not having those measuring sticks was um, an additional challenge, but it was, I think, beneficial for me because at that point I was still really attached to having a body that could produce a certain amount of force. Like, oh, I can deadlift 500 pounds or whatever. It was just like um, a part of my attachment and fixation to numbers was what was leading to I think led to the initial like back pain experience and persistent back pain and the way I was like resensitizing it and not I think really listening to my body. And so it was just like reducing all of the noise. And the only signal that I had was what the feedback that I was getting from the tension in the sessions and then the days afterwards.
Mm. So just want to check in with our audience a little bit. I see that Anthony right now is lifting. I know that Adam was very well versed in martial arts and have a training in the military and all this. But how about you guys? What's your experience with training? I know I think I saw Instagram and Astigia's doing pull up in a garden or something. So I know that a lot of people that follow CC has extensive training background. So what's your guys' relationship with this two things of meditation on one side, awakening meditation, and then the side of like being in your body and exerting and like using it? Maybe we can also start with Frederick. What do you think? For context, Frederick here is also have joined CC for more than a year now. And I've also done multiple boot camps, and Frederick is one of the P1CC that got recommended. Like, yeah, you also need to train the body so that it will be able to process how you process your emotion, help you navigate the ups and downs of the mental chattering, and to be very grounding through. For Frederick, is the act of running, right?
Yeah, so yeah, it was actually kind of a pit instruction, right, that Mei Chen gave me, I think about a year ago to start running. So for context, I didn't run at all before. I did have some martial arts background, mostly in Kendo, which is like Japanese sword fighting, but I didn't have any running ability at all. So it was like I couldn't run a mile without stopping at the time. It probably took me like 15 minutes. Um, but yeah, Mei Chen was basically saying like, okay, I think you should start running, and I was like, okay. That's like I wasn't sure why. And what's crazy is like it's not until a year later, like recently, probably maybe a few weeks ago, where I started to realize how it's benefiting me specifically. Um, and for me, anyways, like I think it took a year to get the running to a point where it's hard enough. Because now I'm running like 5 miles all the time, like which is kind of an interesting thing too. Like um, how much I guess I've grown. Um, yeah, and then it's I guess it gets to a point where the running is hard enough that it's very similar to the feeling I had, or I've been having when I have my OCD attack. So I have OCD, and kind of like the anxiety feeling that I feel, and the kind of the urge to want to compulsion is pretty similar with running, especially when it's really hard. And then, obviously, if you in the OCD case, if you start doing compulsion, that's not good for you. In the running case, if you stop, then you stop running. So like it's very analogous. So like being able to run to a certain, like, because my coach does push me to a certain limit, and being able to keep going. The next time I have an OCD attack, it's easier for me to just like, okay, keep going. So it's pretty practical for me how that translates into life. Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question or yeah.
Because I think I was also talking with Tyson's today about like when we exert, whether it's running or lifting, there is that kind of marginal edge where we see like the emotional problem starting to dawn, like the way your mind psych yourself out or rumination cycle starting to kick in. That usually we would only be able to get we would be triggered to be there. Like something happened and now I'm angry. But in this way, we are willfully inducing that state for us.
Yeah, actually, now that you said that, it's almost like the more tired I am, the more like chatter it has to kind of like try to get me to stop. So that the more like, oh, like, are you sure that's okay? Or like, your heart rate's too high. You haven't, basically like trying to convince you to stop. It's very similar to me as like when I have OCD trigger, trying to convince me to do something about it, to perform compulsions. And then when I just kind of like being able to be like, okay,
Yeah.
like this, all, and just kind of like go, then the tiredness kind of went away.
Yeah.
There was some
So
time, yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think like in for example in CC, the way we talk about measuring realization fitness is that how fit you can be when there is unfavorable conditions happening. Can you still recognize what's going on and you remain restful? A lot of time the problem with meditative condition is that it's own favorable condition. The room is quiet, you get yourself alone, you kind of have your own cocoon. Of course you would feel calm.
Mm.
So in this way, we are inducing the stress and then train to maintain lucidity, recognition, not just like getting the workout done, but no, run and feel your emotion while you're running.
Yeah.
So like angry running, sad running, depressing running, manic running, frustrating running, or lifting at the same time, right? So that's what we're saying about there's a component to cultivate Samantha while exerting. And actually we're seeing that, oh, so in a lot of ways that, yeah, the lifestyle that we're living, the kind of capacity to stay embodied, yes, most likely we will start when the condition is favorable, meaning you create a kind of condition where it's very appropriate, even whether it's meditating in a room that you are not very distracted, or even when running or lifting, to start with a program that you can build sustainability, right? But then we're starting to progressively overload it with more stressor and more stressor and more stressor, and dial back or pace yourself to whatever way that you feel like, okay, this is the edge. Because what I think, Frederick, what you're talking about is like, how do we find the marginal edge where you have enough uncertainty, but you also have enough confidence, so then transformation can be facilitated consistently. Because
Yeah.
because on the other side, we have people who only exert, but they would never really meet that edge.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the way CC is doing this and meditation is very similar with how my coach is doing it and running, which makes sense. I mean, my coach has a connection to CC as well. That, it's a very slow progression. It's like, it's almost like I didn't really realize what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm running pretty fast now, and pretty long too. Or yeah, where it's kind of like a slow and steady instead of like, some people are just gonna go like trying to PR every day and just kind of like tire themselves out. So yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think physical training and making a physical adaptation teaches you like the patience maybe, yeah, I guess patience is one of the first three virtues. It's like how to pace, like how to not be greedy in a training session and just um, accumulate work over time. Um, and also like how long adaptation takes. Because I think like to build muscle or even to go beyond some kind of well-established baseline in performance, uh, it's a lot slower than you want it to be. It's really nice to like see a noticeable like adding reps or adding weight to the bar and doing that session to session. But you have to like, and then unless you're, a high responder to training or maybe a genetically gifted, like you have to learn to like both be patient and then also become more sensitized to what progress feels like. Um, and even though training physically can just be mere exertion, I think just like learning the rate of adaptation um, is really beneficial because I think in a CC boot camp, it's really intense. Like it's really intense. Um, so the decision to whether or not to join 2 sits a day, like it's like there's definitely it's noticeable when if someone's able to do 2 a days, um, you can tell that they're like doing it. They're in the way that they're progressing or refining their view or like their ability to hit absorptive states. Like it's like they're doing it, but then like the having the maturity of like, oh, maybe I should just chill this afternoon. I'm just gonna like go watch a movie with some friends and hang out. Um, it takes like this kind of maturity of like when to push, when to back off. I feel like if someone has a little bit of experience of that in a physical capacity, they're a lot likely to make wise training decisions.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Because I think in the way that CC train in meditation, like a formal setting where you expected to sit and don't move for 90 minutes. There is certain level of intensity there because it's not like there's many factors that come into it. May chain transmission, the shared momentum of the team. There is the speech that guide you exactly breaking down into the phenomenon of the day, what you need to focus on. So then I see, because I asked myself, like, okay, previously when I was sitting by myself applying different techniques, 90 minutes actually like not much happening. So I could sit for quite a while, but in terms of CC, and there is some session which is like, oh my God, it's just like, and you're just like, oh man, there's a lot of things going on right now. And you got to pace yourself, right? So suddenly, because people can, for example, I think Frank talked about it a couple of times that before he would have to like, every day, 2 hours. But with a bootcamp container, once you do the 90 minutes of training, like I'm good. All right, I don't need to think about it. I just go on about my day. Because sometimes people are just like, damn, I need to meditate even more. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours a day. I'm going so hard. 5 hours a day meditating. But a lot of times that 5 hours could be quite inefficient because we don't really know what we're doing. I know that was the case for me when I was like, okay, I'm meditating 6 hours a day now for 2 months. But then I was like, I'm just kind of like Samantha and just staying very calm. It's not even impressive. You're just producing calmness and then just stay there. It's like bragging about how much sleep I have. Like it's not difficult, you know?
mhm. And in physical training, you can accumulate fatigue without actually getting a stimulus that like moves the needle.
Mm,
Um, and like I yeah, from just like a I don't know basic human well-being perspective, like I'm just glad people are exercising at all. So I tend not to be that critical about I don't know like Orange Theory or stuff like that. Like if someone's exerting in general, I'm happy because very few people in the Western world are like actually hitting the movement guidelines. But um, yeah, there's a difference between like working out and training. Like if you're working out and like raising your heart rate and accumulating fatigue, it's good. But like it's very different than like having a precise training stimulus and getting like these outcomes to perform at a higher level. Um, and so, uh,
Yeah. Maybe that level of rigorous is, say, like, for example, Adam, I think you can speak about, or you can think about just people just working out to, keep your body in maintenance mode or something like that, which I guess that we need from time to time. But it would be very different, say, like preparing for a training camp, or like you in fight mode, or you in ready for combat, like ready to be deployed. It just take different, like level of intentionality, right? When things matters, you gotta time everything, blah 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 blah. And a lot of times, like we treat the boot camp with that level of intentionality. Like we're preparing you guys to meet your afflictions, the deepest, most core part of your affliction, and that takes tremendous amount of precision, not fucking around. Sometimes that's scary. Like yesterday after the John's presentation, hey John, after John's presentation, oh there we go. Like John has done his work. After John's presentation, we come together, we talk. We're like, are we doing too much? Is this too much for people? Is this like counterproductive? Is this like just scaring people away? Just like, man, because after that, Frank was like, I think this is I just get a job, like a 9 to 5, and like being a personal trainer in a gym or something. Like, why have we been doing this? And we're just talking about like, yeah, maybe it's like actually saying things about the rigorous. We're not here. There's many time meditation, like I said in day one. If it's for health reason, right now we're just trying to calm our mind and just know, like to be a more productive person in our work. That's fine, but that's not awakening. That's not like self-empty realization, and that's fine. You do that thing, but I mean, if we are, because when we do public practice week, right? We first day measure everybody. Hey, why are you doing this? The most popular answer, two popular answers, I want to see reality as such, and meaning awakening, and I want to unlock hidden truths of life. That's the two most popular things. So nobody is really here doing things just to like feel good or have a more better health and those kind of things. There's plenty of services and products that focus on that and courses and all that. But when we're talking about awakening, the realization of yourself, of reality, and we better come prepared, right? So I don't know. How's it hitting for maybe like for Marco or Astigius? Like all these presentation, all these different like perspective that we are breaking down. Is it counterproductive? Is it like, yeah? How's it landing for you guys?
Uh, Actually, for me, it's like I feel like I'm yolking into the energy. Like it feels to me like a transmission and also like a also mental download of information that I can absorb, and then some like insights about my life can come. So for me, it was really productive. I haven't meditated so much, but I felt like I did somehow. The benefits are there and possible.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but I guess well on our side, we are like, okay, we're gonna present and we're gonna showcase what we are like, right? We're just gonna be ourselves. And maybe alienate some people, but maybe some people would find it to be relevant and resonate with it, and that's fine. Right. You can't expect to convince people if they're not interested. I know John, your friend Frederick, John G. Yeah. He was there yesterday, and then he talked to John as well. Two Johns talking with each other.
No, that's cool. I thought I saw something about that. Yeah, it's pretty cool that he's gonna join. Yeah, almost makes me reconsider if I should join 8B so I do it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say though, like what you were saying about like how much this is like a workout, it's pretty surprising actually how much it's true. I've never been in a meditation. I don't know what you want to call it, like a technique, I guess, methodology where like after you meditate, you're like, oh my god, I'm like that was stressful, you know. like in a good way, like you're saying, it's like a workout, right? But like sometimes, like I think one time, but I think I was in the car with John, actually, John Gatinji, after, but I was like, he's like, what happened? Like, because he seemed kind of, out of sorts. Like, oh yeah, I just did the CC meditation. It's a lot. It's a lot of. It's like he's like looking at me like it's like you just had a workout, but you just meditated. I was like, is it? I think people are a little bit like um weird, not weirded out, but like kind of like
Shook a little bit.
surprised to see,
Yeah.
to see that people, because usually they're thinking, oh, you meditated, you must be really calm now. I was like, no, that was rough. That was a lot. So yeah, um, yeah.
Does that kind of thing happen to Tyson and Adam as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's in the phases of the boot camp. We do like ramp up. Like we start with the earth element and making contact and getting grounded. So it is like it's not that it's just like inappropriately dosed, but yeah, it's intense because as you go through it and as your fitness for it increases, the more sensitive and like maybe even painful aspects of your being you come to face and accept and be with and like untangle, and it can bring up the most sensitive aspects of your experience, and like working with those and being in contact with those and integrating them, and like you're like unwinding and rewinding on a daily basis, and it's a lot of work. Like you're like remapping your sense of self. It's like the most like fundamental aspect of experience. Um, so yeah, it can get really intense, which is part of why it's nice to have, a whole team. Like you have peers and mentors, instructors, people you talk to, because like without that support, it would be really hard to integrate.
In some cases, it's also not surprising, right? Like it's an engineered process. Like, okay, week 4 now, we're going there. Week 5 now, it's about to get hot. Get ready. Week 6, like, definitely in the trench right now. Staying there. You're not the only one feeling this right now. Everybody facing their shit. Everybody got to get their stuff together, get the ducks in line, like square things away. Difficult conversation, can't avoid it anymore. You know you need what you need to do. If you don't do it, you continue to suffer. You address that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sessions themselves, like they contain like the warm up, kind of the work, which is rest, but resting in a way that you're recognizing, and then there's a cool down. So like similar to a workout pacing, you have like this build up, this kind of peak work, and then kind of recalibrating back so that you have a smoother transition in and out of life. Or I mean, there's not separate, but there's a sense of separation, so that it makes it more of a continuous, rather than it feeling like an abrupt cutoff.
Mm. Anything to add to that, Adam?
Not too much more. I line a lot with what Tyson says a lot. I think that he's very intuitive. I think that's his IG handle. And so I often don't have much more to say when Tyson's speaking because I feel very similar. My experiences are different, but I think if we remove the content, kind of what John likes to say, remove the content, focus on the context, we had a very similar path. So I think, exertion and the meditation and the boot camp, like I've compared the boot camp to Marine Corps boot camp, in the mental taxing energy that it is. And I had fun in Marine Corps boot camp, so I'm not saying that it's the hardest thing in the world. But it kicks your butt. And so CC boot camp's no joke.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a hazing situation. But you haze yourself with yourself. You haze by just looking at yourself. Oh my God, that's me. No way. And you haze yourself just by being honest. So that's kind of fucked up about, but that's the truth, right? We're a messy being. We have our mess.
Mhm.
Yeah. So sometimes it's just the simple invitation, come as you are with your baggage, the beauty, the uglies, and the secrets. And I mean, somebody just comment, I don't know which Khan that is. say a lot of us stop our solo meditation when it gets challenging. Yeah, very understandable, right? That's the value of CC. You have to stay. Well, there's different reason why like you have to stay, right? One component of it, I think, say when you really like don't have any other reason, it's just like, oh, I paid for it, so therefore I stay. The other reason of like, but everybody's still going through it, so I'm also going through it. It's not the only person. The third reason sometimes it's just like, yeah, there's people that check up on you. It's like, hey man, are you doing okay? And then just, like work your way. It's very challenging, but one step at a time. I mean, Frederick here is like a prime example of a plenty of hazing. So like we haze the shit out of Frederick many, many times, because sometimes he just be looping in his bullshit. And we're just like, no, Frederick, we're not doing that anymore. Like you can't use the same excuse for the fucking 50th time. We're gonna call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think long run it's a good practice to like realize what you learn. Yeah. It could be hard at times, but yeah.
Yeah, of course, right. Yeah. But okay, I think that's plenty of priming warm up to the space. I want to also get to really the meat of today, which is Tyson's presentation. That is, like we're saying, that in the more than 3 months, really, is a culmination of Tyson's life's work, but he put it into a dissertation, and now we're going to present it to you. But it's really an ongoing cultivation of how I understand, like this is the beginning of Tyson's really opening the conversation about alchemical lifting, like a kind of lifting, a kind of exertion, a kind of willful effort that produce realization, right? So there's a new angle that we want to share with you guys. So yeah, can you guys see my screen? So okay, exertion required, nature, virtue, laziness, and enthusiasm. There's people are seeing my screen all right, right? Presentation, is it also
It's not
showing?
it's not loading for me. There's like a spinny loading right now.
Yeah, it's not loading for me either.
Okay, let me try it again. How about this? Do you guys see? Okay, maybe oh, it's lagging a little bit. Oh, I'm trying to stop sharing, but yeah, I guess Canva is a little bit okay, let me try it again. How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me hit present. Does it come up?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
Let me just one moment to check on YouTube live stream. See if it's also showing up on YouTube for our people. Hmm. And yeah, in the meantime, maybe Tyson, you can okay, great. It is showing. Can you introduce how you came about like the process of writing this and putting things down? I mean, before this, you present your paradigm, your approach, like the Taoism and the way you approach resistance training before doing this, but now you're putting it together after 3 months of training, the most recent boot camp.
Mhm. Yeah, I knew I wanted to write on this topic. Um, and I wasn't really sure how it would manifest because at that point, in the previous boot camps, I had done fitness campfires, like talking about kind of the guess like the physicalist, like, okay, here are the, here's how to get more precise with your training, how to, integrate rate of perceived exertion and all these factors of training. And so I think in preparation for writing a dissertation, I mean, honestly, at some point it felt like the universe just dropped big enough hints for me. It just like made it kind of clear what I should write about. Because it kind
Oh
of
yeah,
started.
can you tell that story as well? That's
Yeah, yeah.
really interesting.
Because really, I like, should have been working on this this dissertation for the whole of the boot camp, and yeah, about like 9 weeks in, it started probably with when I was looking for kind of texts that talked about exertion. I was just Googling around. I found the text by Nagarjuna, The Treatise of Great Wisdom, and exertion is mentioned a lot. Like it's like an 1100-page text, and the control F is just like exertion, and it's just throughout. The root word is virya, which we'll get into, but it was just like, oh, okay, this is a central component. Like this isn't just like a tangential. Like, no, this is the fourth virtue. And so that was like, oh wow, this is that things slid into place with that. So I knew I wanted to write about that, like include that in my dissertation. And then over Thanksgiving, I was driving. I live in the States, in Minnesota. I was driving up to Canada and back to visit my grandma, and I was listening to The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva, and my Audible app was glitching out, and it's the first time that it had done this, and it hasn't done it since. And I even looked for updates and like shut down my phone and turned it back on. It would like, but it kept. What it would do is I'd press start and it'd play on chapter 7, chapter on diligence, on exertion. And if I would pause it or do anything, it would restart at the beginning of the chapter. So anytime I pressed pause, if I pressed play again, it would go back to the beginning of chapter 7, diligence. And after like the 5th time, I'm like, wow, literally everything I need for this dissertation, especially part 2, is in this section. So
Yeah, pretty much the master of the old what is it? Colluded with technology to kind of like wink at you to like, hey bro, you need to write about this and present this material. Diligence, exertion, Shantideva, Nagarjuna, all these titans of, Buddha Dharma. It's like, bro, you need to talk about this.
yeah, it was made abundantly clear to me.
Yeah,
Let's see if it's
abundantly clear. Yeah.
So yeah, it became clear to me that exertion is a essential component of the path. And so and then the final part of my dissertation is a personal reflection, which I've touched on in parts in the kind of intro conversation we've had so far.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into it. Exertion required. So Tyson just mentioned this word, rija.
Yeah, it's the root Sanskrit word, and it's translated in Nagarjuna's text as exertion, and in Shantideva, it's translated in Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva, it's translated as diligence. But that's the root word.
Yeah. So this presentation, I believe, break down in 3 components. First part is about nature and virtue of exertion. Second part is about enthusiasm and the 3 forms of laziness. We did post it on our Instagram, and I believe even when I was hearing Tyson mention these in the first presentation, it was very, very interesting. When we were just dry run rehearsed in internal CC first. So really excited to also just, pause on it and really contemplate what it means to be lazy on the path. Very interesting. And yeah, of course, we started with introducing Tyson and his journey, but now we also have a systematic reflection on the alchemical process, the transformative process, that how exertion leads to this decoupling from your identities and then having this rebirth process through exertion.
Root of all good dharmas, all the virtues and all the benefits of the path in the present lifetime and in future lifetimes come from exertion. This is a text I pulled from Nagarjuna's work. And in the Great Treatise of Wisdom, there's a section dedicated to exertion and the nature of exertion, the benefits of exertion, the like virtue of exertion. Go to the next slide. And it's the fourth among the 6 paramitas, the virtues. And the first 3, generosity, morality, and patience. And Nagarjuna is asked, why does it appear fourth if it is the root of all good dharmas? Why is it the fourth and not the first? And he said that the first 3 always exist in the world. So with generosity, people give for a variety of reasons. They might give in view of the present lifetime, or potentially benefits in a future lifetime, or in view of the path. It's like, oh, this is a virtue. If I cultivate this leads to the other virtues. And Nagarjuna said that even you can even see generosity in animals. Like there are like conditions in which generosity arises, and it requires relatively little exertion. But these are also foundational. Like this is also the generation of merit. And the second virtue, morality. So people practice morality for a variety of reasons. So if they see kind of in the law of the land someone's getting punished, like, oh, I don't want to be punished, so I'm going to behave morally. Or if there's kind of this hope or promise of escaping birth, old age, sickness, and death, they're like, oh, if I'm moral, then I will get a reward. And then with patience, someone might be patient for fear and weakness. So you can endure a lot if you know that if you don't endure it, then maybe you'll get further punishment, or or just like knowing that it's a virtue and trying to cultivate and practice these. So there are you can go to the next one. There are these first three virtues have causes and conditions, and while exertion can be applied to all of these, if in the right circumstance, they kind of have their causes. And exertion then is in the fourth place, not because it is of lesser importance, but because it supports all preceding virtues and makes possible the wisdom to which they point.
When I hear you present about these points, I think it's very interesting how it's almost that the first 3 form the foundation just for even stability of life in general, just like to starting conducive. Just how we see that, okay, generosity is that I help you help me, you help me in the past, or I'll help you in the future. So now I help you. Things like that, like, just like a fair exchange, just like reciprocity, right? Just feeding on each other, kind of stack on top of it. Then we got morality of like, okay, when we band together, there is this rule set that, like, if you go out of line, you get punished, you get ostracized, you get judged, you get stoned to death, or whatever version of the punishment happens to be. And then when you act in a way that align with the rules and the set of expectation, you get rewarded. So you would tend to do that. So out of this connection that start with generosity, morality is then become like the pathway that people act on it. And then patience is just about you enduring that people stick for that long enough, and now stability can be established. But once that is the case, now within that stability, within this kind of run-of-the-mill situation, do you have for whatever reason, a desire to go beyond. So now there's suddenly an interest to go beyond. Suddenly now there is this intention to train in a systematic manner to self-improve, to self-arise, to self-transcend, and all these things. Like it's like now you suddenly decided to like, I must go on my hero's journey. It's very difficult, but I want to.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, even like even though this is like the basics, it's funny because like even these three is like the bar is pretty high. Like to practice all of these three and consistently and patiently is like it's already kind of an ask. But
yeah, I mean, like,
um,
yeah, if we just look at these things, right? The first three, pretty much that now you build like a foundation, you know, you have a lot of goodwill, people, you got a good reputation because you exercise these three virtue. You probably stack up a decent amount of, you know, merit just from this. You know, like you treat people nice, even if it's a meme, even if it's like the so-called you do it so that they like do unto others what you want to do unto you. So then you do all these things and you stick it long enough. Now you have like a runway of money, a runway of reputation, a runway of whatever. Right? So you have stacked enough that, okay, now you venture into unknown territory, but later, three virtues, you have what it takes already. But even that, right? It's just really starting the path.
yeah, and in the text Nagarjuna notes, by establishing these three as the foundation, you taste the benefits of these three established is a part of what it creates the support for then what we'll get into next of the rapture that leads to wisdom. It's like this is the base and of stability that you need in order to exert towards rapture. We can go to the next one. And so yeah, as Khan was just saying, with the merit being well, so yeah, so there's two gateways for arrival to Buddhahood: merit and wisdom, and through the practice of generosity, morality, and patience, the gateway of merit, and then in the understanding of the true nature of dharmas, there's the great virtue of wisdom.
This is interesting is because I think pretty much there is a way to so-called approach meditation in the form of actually it's still just the practice of the first three virtues. You're just still in the process of right now you are focused on building merit, right? Because maybe for whatever reason you're not very generous. We've been saying about like generous with your time, your attention, and your energy for other people. And for whatever reason, your morality is not aligned. So that's either that you feel like there is some injustice, you want to correct it, or you feel like for the reason you just have all sort of issues with the world, you want to do something about it. Or this patience of like you can't endure, or you are lacking the capacity to stick to it. Right? So just in this case, meditation can be sold, can be promised as a way for you to solve these things. When you're more calm, you connect with others better, and you can feel the reciprocity. Can't pronounce that fucking word. You feel intimate. You feel connected. You suddenly become more clear, so you can actually do the thing that you know you should do. You become a more ethical version based on your own standard, right? So the meditation help you with that, and then you have the patience. Like, okay, you stick to it long enough, you endure, blah 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 blah. But now Tyson is introducing a way that you have joy in your practice. It's time to opening the gate into the second kind of cultivation of samadhi and jhanas, samadhis, and then prajna directly. The prajna paramita. Yeah. Which is then we're seeing that, if the foremost reason people are engaging with CC is more for the wisdom side, like, seeing through nature of phenomenon, seeing the dharmas, cultivating wisdom, unlocking hidden secrets. But right now, the reason why a lot of us just straight up can't join a bootcamp because we lack merit, which is kind of like a harsh truth, right? Like for whatever reason, we haven't been practicing the generosity. We haven't lived a life that is ethical, not in the way of like only following the rules of the land, but to follow your own rules. Like follow your own sensibility of like, I know I should be doing that, but I'm not doing that. Right. So then it's like over time, one of the measurement in the modern time when you practice enough of these things is you have money, time, and effort to reinvest in yourself. A boot camp. But right now you can't do that because you don't have time, you don't have money, or you don't have the energy. Yeah, it's kind of like game time call, the boat is ringing, but you don't have the money to buy the ticket. Right, yeah.
So by means of generosity, morality, patience, great merit, great peace, and great joy are obtained. And having appreciated the flavor of these benefits, now he, the Bodhisattva, wants to produce the great virtue of wisdom that depends on rapture. And this rapture, in turn, requires great exertion of effort.
Yeah, rapture is an interesting word to describe jhanas here, right? Essentially, is a type of when you feel uplifted by the capacity to stay in samadhi, like to the various level of evenness of mind. We say like, okay, first, like the piti arise, your sensibility, like there's tinglings, the ability to just stay unmoving, meeting the hindrances, converting the hindrance into like an understanding about your insight, personal insight, general insight, all these things. It's starting to have a cathartic release in your sit, having to have the capacity to allow the piti to arise and ride all these jhanas higher and higher and higher and higher with more and more absorption. So in that capacity here is saying this process requires great effort and exertion. And sometimes we hear the kind of effortless appeal, right? But then it's right back to we want that type of effortless so that we don't have to cultivate merit. Oh, suddenly I don't have to be generous and play the game and like be patient. I can just be effortless. I can just, in those cases. But this effortlessness usually being talked about in this kind of text, I reckon that it will be much wiser of an interpretation that is the mastery over effort, not the absence of effort. Yeah. It's like the effortlessness that you cultivate after you transcend it. But people are like skipping it on together. Yeah, so Buddha, like we were saying, Siddhartha Gautama was a G, which just straight up gangster about like his intention and the determination that he put in here. Like, look at the vow, right? Do you have similar aspiration?
Yeah, this quote was in the text, Nagarjuna's text, and I loved it. It stood out to me. Thus the Buddha declared, "May my blood, flesh, fat, and marrow dry up. May I be reduced to skin, bone, and tendons, but I will never abandon exertion."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT. All right, shout out to the OG.
So Nagarjuna lays out the 5 characteristics, nature of exertion. So the characteristics are dynamism in activity, ease in enterprises, firmness of will, ardor of spirit, perseverance in action. And so like that ease or like that effortless is a component. But it's like, I mean, it's right effort. Like I think Frank says like effortless effort, or there's this there's both this like there's different qualities that is both it's like very effective, and it's maybe seemingly easeful, but also like reactive. I feel like each of these qualities is a different color or flavor of exertion. And one of the most helpful definitions that I found for exertion in this text was bodily and mental non-withdrawal, the unceasing momentum toward the wholesome. And I think this, as a definition, also helped me understand exertion, not just in the physical sense, but in the mental and relational sense. So anytime that there is if there's a difficult conversation with a spouse or a loved one, like a conversation needs to happen, or anytime there's that.
In slang term, we call this never duck a fate. Yeah. Never back down. Never what? Yeah.
But yeah, just that tendency to shy away from the discomfort, non-withdrawal, like even like to rest in a way that is non-dissociative. We have rest and recognize. If you're resting in a way where you just fall asleep and just like shut down from it, to not shut down and to have an opting in to discomfort. Yeah. And something that was emphasized in the text is that exertion and wisdom are developed together. So the exertion, the bodily and mental effort, an unrelaxing eagerness, and undistracted mind, and this is required. This exertion, this undistracted mind, goes hand in hand and is developed simultaneously with wisdom. Wisdom, the rapture that sees the true nature of dharmas.
So like we're saying about like there is this foundation of the first three virtues: generosity, morality, and then patience. But then these things here is like exertion, the fourth one, rapture or jhanas, the fifth one, and then wisdom, prajna, the sixth one. And all together they form these cycles of training, like cycles on cycles and cycles of training. Is that when things get easy and you have no reason to push beyond your comfort, do you have the switch to go for it? Job's not finished. For whatever reason, somebody just geared to when things are easy, they go hard. Like, how do we turn that switch? How do we turn the switch from, complacency, lacking the fucking tendency to grab life by the throat and do something about it? Like, how do we wake ourselves out of that snooze in a way that is systematic and not just rageful? How do we be thunderous about our intentionality?
Yeah, I think Bodhisattva's energy arises from right view, from insight into the dependently arisen and empty nature of dharmas. So I think when exertion is developed and cultivated without wisdom, without cultivation of right view, I think that's where I guess you get a lot of the fitness community, a lot of maybe really gifted athletes, but it's an exertion that kind of leads to like a doubling down of identification, kind of further solidification. And I think in each cycle of identity structures arising and collapsing, there's maybe an opportunity to develop wisdom. I feel like even like with cessations, maybe people have cessations but don't realize it because there isn't enough lucidity on either side of it to like even recognize that it was happening. And to like, and so I feel like in every cycle of these major identity structures that are built and then collapse, there's probably an opportunity to develop wisdom about yourself or the way your sense of self is aggregated. But if you don't have that wisdom component, you're just developing exertion, which the next, and one of the real aha about exertion and what Nagarjuna writes about it is this distinction between mere exertion and the virtue of exertion. So mere exertion aims at prosperity, reputation, or favorable rebirth, results oriented by grasping. Though meritorious, this effort remains bound to cyclic existence.
I mean, some of the languaging here means could feel archaic, right? Could feel like from another time, that maybe having some sort of a religious mumbo jumbo mixed into here. What we mean by rebirth and cyclical existence, but the mechanism is very clear in the way that they point out here is that, okay, if we say we are lifting, we are exerting with the aims of, making more money, being more abundant materially, or on the reputation, like the praise, the validation that comes from having like wealth or a good physique, or like enviable health and longevity and all these things, those are result oriented by grasping, meaning like you fixated on that outcome, so that either you are in the pursuit of that outcome, so that's something to be had in the future, or right now you have acquired that outcome, so you want to hold on to it, which now you are pushing against the turn of time, or it is something that is in the past that you are ruminating about it, which all of this is just different parts of cyclic existence. And of course, all of this is striving for favorable rebirth, meaning that whatever the being that you are now, the next being of tomorrow, of next week, of next month, of next year, should be better. Like we expect that. I do this so that the next day, so that the next month, next week, blah, 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 is better. So they're saying all of this, yes, meritorious, meaning most likely it will like generate more favorable condition for you, but it still bound you to cyclical existence. And that's why Tyson is pointing out that, yes, just exertion itself, if not informed by the view, would still keep you trapped. And this could be the case that now, equipped with this perspective, if you see into world-class athlete, we're not denying their feat and all the tremendous amount of effort they're putting into their cultivation. But the dangers of it, even if you're a world-class athlete, you are not outrunning samsara. World-class businessman, world-class whatever, right? It's like all the result you generated is either like something more to be done, maintaining your peak for as long as possible, or trying to go back. All of that is samsaric, cyclical existence. Now, this in and of itself, but once again, like, right, we're saying that this exertion, fourth virtue, is dependent upon the merit-making process. Still need generosity, still need morality, and still need patience. But in and of itself, if we stuck just those three, we don't orient ourselves into rapturous wisdom, into the kind of like getting uplifted beyond conventionality and starting to see the nature of how things are, to unbound ourselves from cyclical existence. In some ways, that's why like some Dharmic text is very harsh on like, all of the things you have quite materialistic and all these things, it doesn't mean anything. Family doesn't mean anything. They're very, very like, they make a point, right? They make a point about like, if you contemplate about how things are really playing out and mechanism of this, you gotta put your priorities in order, man. It's very harsh. Yeah, very, very harsh. So then it's like to inform ourselves, like, okay, of course, then still in terms of the virtues of generosity and all these things, we have priorities and preferences to live a kind of life that we want to live. But if it's not informed by these higher understanding, then we're just running around in circle. For some people right now, even though that we are like kind of elaborating on this, literally right now, you cannot hear what I'm saying. Like you're not hearing what I'm saying, because the bind to cyclical existence is so strong. Anything beyond it, either you tune out, cognitive dissonance, or you just straight up like you can't even register what I'm saying. And you don't understand the words that are being said, because the momentum is so strong to just like, stay in the loop, like in the trance. That's why like some of the sit in CC, like you just straight up blank out for 90 minutes.
the virtue of exertion then arises from bodhicitta and is directed toward the welfare of all beings, integrated with the other perfections that becomes virya paramita, the perfection of exertion. And I think if you press one more time, there's another quote. Exertion directed toward Buddhahood is called virtue. Exertion supporting other wholesome aims is simply exertion, not paramita.
Yeah, so what do we mean by bodhicitta here, right? It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. What do we mean by bodhicitta? If we break down it, there's two components that form the word bodhi and chitta. Chitta means mind, and bodhi means awakened. So there's an awakened mind which engages with phenomenon. So arises from, that's why like there is I think something like relative bodhicitta and definitive bodhicitta, or ultimate bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta. Before that, an awakened mind, we can only meme of like, oh, what would an awakened version of me do about the situation? And from that, we will like cultivate. But when there is already this paramita, meaning like a cultivation or the perfection, then the chitta here is meaning like you've already stepped into the stream. You have already experienced the fruit for the first time of initial awakening already. From that as the basis, now you engage with reality. You engage with your family, your work, your relationships. From that, it arises virtue of exertion. Right? So the bodhicitta literally means an awakened mind now engages, even though it could be just initial awakening, but it's act as a seed so that it will slowly, surely, gradually transform its own reality, its own set of reality. Right? So then as it relates to any circumstances, it will start to like exert to see through what's going on. While before that, even if we aim towards like enlightenment, it is most likely still within the bound of cyclical existence. That's why it's so challenging, right? That's why like within the loops, we have to break the loops. How do we do that? Right. So bodhicitta, that's kind of like a little bit elaboration on what that word means.
Yeah, thanks for elaborating on that. I remember in Shantideva's text, talks about bodhicitta in aspiration and then in action. And so it's like you have like the intention to set out on a journey and then to
Right.
go on the journey.
Right. Yeah, so perhaps at first it's like the bodhicitta in its aspirational form. Yeah, and then in an active form, it will be different. And then going through that, and why is this? Oh, like the two benefits. Sometimes we say the welfare of own beings, because it's talking about how it is that we see interdependence between our being and the presence of own other, right? Within ourselves and reality. And how is it possible that we would cultivate in this direct recognition of what's going on? How is it possible that we see what to do so that we take care of ourselves and we take care of everybody? How can we live a noble reality in which it's uplift every being? Right? So that's really like the aesthetic or like the purpose, the function of bodhicitta. And that's why bodhisattva, in the text of, if you say the way of bodhisattva or by Shantideva and a lot of these older texts, like they hold a very, very high bar for what it means to be a bodhisattva. Because essentially they talk about realized being. Yeah, it's a text for realized being to read. Those texts are not passed around like they are passing around nowadays. So right nowadays, maybe a lot of time some of the terms have been diluted or been recontextualized, which is fine. We'll just work with the new definition and new context. But nowadays, I see many instances and circumstance where bodhisattva is just be described as somebody who would like to help other people. But that may just be like aspirational and just not like like bodhisattva aspirationally in ideal, not in actuality. So yeah. So then we got a little bit confused about like, oh, the path of bodhisattva and the path of the arahant, and the arahant seems to be like more what is it about? And I don't like this like mumbo jumbo Mahayana stuff. So let me just take the Theravada. They seems to be much more on point. So let me just go and take a look at the fourth path model. So we see how like, oh, the modern mind, they just kind of like mix up all these definitions, and it doesn't see that, wait a minute, the words doesn't seem like what I think it means, right? So maybe we'll talk more about that, like what it means to, like cultivate bodhicitta and like going through these cycles of training and all that.
So that's the first part of the dissertation, Nagarjuna's text, and the second, pulling from Shantideva's The Way of the Bodhisattva. There's a few quotes on here. This is the first verse in the 7th chapter. Thus, with patience, I will strive with diligence, for in such diligence enlightenment is found. If no wind blows, then nothing stirs, and neither is there merit without diligence. And I think wind is a really apt analogy for enthusiasm. And yeah, what would take thousands of people rowing can happen with relative ease when a sail is raised. And in this chapter, Shantideva lays out enthusiasm and laziness. And as we get into it, I think what's even in writing this, like a refinement and refreshing of what I think about laziness. Because I think in the West, there's maybe a lot of baggage that comes with that, or ideas about maybe like a moralizing kind of bend to it. And also here with diligence, the root word is virya, was translated as exertion. Diligence is and it's a translation from the Tibetan word. It carries more of that enthusiastic connotation to it. Yes, diligence. Diligence means joy in virtuous ways. Its contraries have been defined as laziness, an inclination for unwholesomeness, defeatism, and self-contempt. And I think it's interesting to think of exertion or diligence as joy in virtuous ways. Is to like find a sense of joy in virtue. And virtue, one way that I've heard it defined by Mei Cheng, is compounding growth without suffering. And so it's a process of doing the effective thing over and over without going through the suffering of having kind of all these like clinging and just suffering, choosing to suffer. And then this verse also lays out the 3 forms of laziness, which we'll get into. So the 3 kinds of laziness: laziness proper. And this is probably just the typical, like when someone says the word or you think about the word laziness, it's, comfort orientation. It's just basic unwillingness to help or effort, and hope to outsmart samsara. So this could look like hoping that a better relationship, or maybe a dream trip, or a better career, or it's all the things that, if you get like a really hard health diagnosis, it like all crumbles away. It's like if you've like 3 months to live, suddenly like all of those things that you were like hoping would resolve this fundamental issue, like no, that's all gone. The house always wins in that sense. And
in that way, I think like you were talking about how a lot of times the laziness proper, or the lack of like a determination, or like an earnest observation of what's going on, the antidote to it is death contemplation.
Yeah. after we flesh out these three kinds of laziness, Shantideva then goes into the antidotes for each of these, and the
I see.
antidote for laziness proper is contemplation of death, yeah, exactly. So the second form of laziness, defeatism, indulgence in discouragement, collapse of will to help ourselves and others. And yeah, so this indulgence in discouragement is, yeah, just the looping thoughts of like, I tried this and then I tried this and then it just didn't work for me, and it won't work for me in the future no matter what I try. Just like kind of feeding into those catastrophizing thoughts, or
I
beliefs.
have a suspicion. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt,
no,
Tyson.
please.
Yeah. I have a suspicion that a lot of people, when they say they are practicing do nothing meditation, they have fallen into defeatism.
Yeah.
I think they're being lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because very rarely I talk with people who say they practice do nothing meditation, and they would quote like very high teaching, like, Dzogchen, natural way. When I actually ask them about like the chops, I don't think I've ever come across anybody that actually know the chops. They actually is talking about type of a suspended in like a frozen in time kind of practice.
Mm-hmm.
But they maybe in some sort of a wishful thinking is betting in the future that if I only would just stop doing anything, something would happen. And slowly the path fades away for them. I mean, at that time, you just back to regular like mindfulness meditation, which is like step number one. That's not do nothing meditation like the type of Dzogchen practice that you're talking about. That's not what it's talking about. And most likely it's just like you need like basic ass like mindfulness based stress reduction. That's what you need. Like like bro, stop trying to like climb ladders. It's like you need to count your breath. You need to relax your body. You need to calm the mind. You need samatha practices. You burn yourself out with too high teaching or like a lack of pacing or out of sequence techniques, and now you feel the burn. But that doesn't mean that right now you do nothing for the rest of your life. That means right now you need to rest and recover from the out of sequence training. That's a tough conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. That was I realized like, okay, I was full of shit. Let me actually do the jhanas now.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of laziness not as just laziness proper, but as anything that saps enthusiasm. Like if enthusiasm, a sense of diligence towards your practice and towards the rapture that leads to wisdom, if it saps your enthusiasm, like that's laziness. It's not. And yeah, maybe I should look into like what the root word is, or find a different word other than laziness, or you can just recharacterize what laziness means. And yeah, the third form I think is pretty pervasive to the Western mind, and self-contempt, bitter conviction of unworthiness, loss of wind in our sails. It's like this deep sea. It's like defeatism, but taken much farther. It's this deeper self-loathing that really saps enthusiasm. It sweeps the leg on diligent
I think a
practice.
lot of times like these laziness, because rarely ever we have the kind of honesty to just straight up look at the fact as a fact. It's a situation, that's a situation. Very often I see in myself fallen into many, many times. So I'm not even pushing this as like a holier than thou situation. I'm calling myself out for it. It's many times that I have symptoms or experience these kind of things, but the narrative, the self-narrative would look at it in very different ways. Actually, the laziness proper would disguise as some sort of busyness. Like, you're just doing a lot of stuff, but actually you're just comfort orientation, not doing the things that actually moving the needle, not actually like, if you're doing sales, you think that you see one more sales video on YouTube would move the needle versus like, hello? That shit is scary. Right. Or like defeatism would like guise myself in unearned victory. I'm like, oh, I get it. But actually, when it's actually the effort to help yourself out of the situation you know that you find yourself having very little effort, having very little will to move the needles. And then self-contempt, very interestingly enough, sometimes the guise of self-contempt is grandiosity, is narcissism. Like it flipped, right? It's like, oh, I'm the shit, blah, 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 blah. And actually, this is the guise for the self-contempt that it flip on the other side, that the last place that you want to feel so that you run as far away as is possible. So you have a very, very high self-image of yourself. You're being narcissistic or like overconfident, but actually you have deep, deep sense of unworthiness.
Yeah, I feel like um
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like the second to defeatism and self-contempt are much more slippery. Like I feel like those are things that you can yeah, I appreciate you pointing out how they can manifest in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to.
Yeah. Because I think it takes a while for us to like zone in to like, okay, this is a problem. Don't run away. See it as it is. Just see it, see it, see it. Very often that we would narrate to ourselves the experience in very different ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like it'd be this is the kind of stuff you won't see until like maybe like week 5 or 6 into the boot camp. You're like, oh shit, this is the rut.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our 3 forms of laziness: laziness proper, defeatism, self-contempt, and their antidotes: contemplating death, gathering all of your being, and befriending yourself. The first one, the next slide. For laziness proper is a verse defining laziness proper: a taste for idle pleasure and a craving for repose and sleep. No qualms about the sorrows of samsara. Laziness indeed is born of these. And this is another verse about the antidote of contemplating death. This I have not done, and this I'm only starting, and this I'm only halfway through. Then the sudden coming of the Lord of Death, and oh, the thought, alas, I'm finished.
Mm.
And there's a series of verses, like maybe 10 or so, that are this elaborate on this contemplation of death. It's like where an ox or a cow sleeping next to the butcher. Like we have this sense of um, we have this sense of like lackadaisical, or that we have like all the time in the world, and the antidote for laziness proper is this just like recognizing this precious human birth and how tenuous the situation is, like just how you have the kind of this entire expectation of like how long you'll live, what kind of life you'll lead, what kind of relationships you'll have, what kind of jobs you'll have, and how it all might map out. And in an instant, it all can just like change very drastically, which we all know. But it's just like we like a sleeping cow next to the butcher, we can get very comfortable and distracted. And so it's just, yeah, the series of verses of like, no, this is we're playing for keeps. Like this is it's always looming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is across the board, not just exclusive to Bodhidharma, right? So
Mhm.
many memento mori.
Yep.
It's very, very fundamental, contemplation. Gotta contemplate about the kind of advantage and freedom that we currently have, so that this would even be possible. That right now we are having this conversation, that you have the interest. I mean, yeah, not even having any kind of like fantasy thinking, because I know like rebirth and reincarnation have gone out of style. Doesn't seem like anywhere near anywhere soon that the West would accept reincarnation. But just even like 5 years from now, you could lose own interest. You could be in debt. You could have certain type of responsibility that no more possible. And then 10 years later, you have a kindling of, wait a minute, I think I used to care about these things. Wait, I did. And then you pick up the practice again, and then you try it again until the next wave of responsibility, and you give up again, and another 5 years pass, and now you're 55, your body gave out, you can barely stay awake, you're constantly fatigued, and the time's over. By then, you meditate for health. Hopefully, you achieve a kind of like just more comfort. That's fine, but it will be a tragedy. One of the things that I found when I read like Words of My Perfect Teacher and these kind of proses and verses, uh, I think a lot of times when we start out on the path, especially when we come into Mahayana and Vajrayana and these kind of teachings, the masters and the teachers, to firmly establish a commitment and aspiration for practice, they really want to shook you out of that sleep. But not everybody want to be shaken out of that sleep, that forgetfulness, that distractibility. Like they really want to shake you out of it. Like I mean, even in Theravadan training, right? Like we got on the contemplation on mindfulness of the blood pus and on the goriness of, on the only thing that you take to be so high and mighty and on the appeal and on the shiny object. They want to pitch you into a hole to see like all of that will be for nothing. It's extremely sobering and sombering. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think people sometimes now call, but it's like it's challenging because if you do this to people and you're not careful, people just can't handle it, and they would just immediately, no, let me go back. I don't want to see these things. Put me back in the matrix. When life was simpler, and I can be be sleeping. And it's almost like we have to acquire an appetite for, like fear and like this emotion that we're feeling together about like the hopelessness of it, or like the sense of urgency. But then it's like, but I'm so not prepared for this. I don't have the means to actually do this. And we gotta enjoy it. We gotta learn how to enjoy this sense of dread, Armageddon.
Mhm.
It's the apocalyptic mindset. We gotta love this shit, man.
Yeah, you have to be a little unhinged, or
Yeah, you gotta be a little unhinged. You gotta be a little crazy.
or yeah, like you just like at least a little dislodged from kind of the societal values at large of like what most people see as like what you should care about. To be a little off.
Yeah, be a little slightly off. Like this boy ain't right. Yeah. Why are you so pessimistic? Yeah. I guess that's why like the when this topic is introduced for the mass, like the general public, the general population, uh, the way that it get digested is then become some sort of like a Fight Club or Escape the Matrix kind of aesthetic. It's very kind of doom and gloom and nihilistic and anarchist kind of flavor, because that's what it feels for your sense of order and meaning to be ripped away, right? It's like, what? You mean everything that everybody around me care about is it's not what it seems? Then you have that sense of paranoia. But people get stuck in that. Right. So it's like, bro, everybody on the path know this. Chill out. Stop practice.
Brain.
But at first, maybe we need to go through like 1-2 years. Oh my God, I gotta wake my family up. And then the more you try to wake them up, they're trying to make you asleep with them. It's like, oh my God, that means I gotta walk away from my family. Oh no.
All right.
So yeah, not
Yeah.
for happiness, right?
Not for happiness. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So for defeatism, and this is the getting into the antidote of it. These first two lines: do not be downcast, but marshal your strength. Take heart and be the master of yourself. So this speaks to recruiting like all of your being, gathering all of your being. Use your intelligence, your courage, and your humor to disrupt this indulgence into defeatism. And so, yeah, just interrupting those catastrophizing thought loops, and by whatever means, and taking responsibility for your moods without adopting victimhood. Yeah, take heart, marshal all your strength. And it can be a real challenge. I feel like when you're in the depths of defeatism, I've especially like around athletic events and stuff, the competitions, maybe like a week out, I experienced like a tweak in my back or like whatever. Like you have like some kind of event, and there's just like this flood and outpouring of catastrophizing, of like, imagining like, oh, what this means for the competition, and then if I get hurt in the competition, and then like I have an injury that like ends my entire like career or like hobby in this sport, and like just like blah, blah, blah. And then in general in life too, it's like one event can kind of trigger and cascade this whole narrative and projecting into what it means. And it can be a real challenge to do that for yourself. And I think the real power of having friends, mentors, people around you in community, because in one conversation you can disperse all of it. You all of a sudden just like that, like the sky after a storm. You're like, oh, like that was all just like my own bullshit. I was making all of that up, and you
Right.
just like pick yourself up and dust yourself off, and you just continue on. You just take it as it comes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost that I guess different ways to map this into an experience, but I reckon defeatism, a lot of times we experience that as dark nights, right? That's what we say,
Mm.
like dark nights.
Yep. Yep.
Where like, okay, I've started something that maybe I didn't account for how much challenge is going to require of me. The level of preparation I had clearly was not enough, and now I'm seeing things, feeling things, perceiving things that I wish I wouldn't. I wish I hadn't started this in the first place. And in those moments, like Tyson was just saying, having external, maybe more objective analysis on our situation will be tremendously helpful, because then we have somebody to kind of snap us out into this own trance of victimhood, into this kind of fallen loss of heart, right? I think like loss of heart. We lose the spirit. Yeah, and this pattern I personally had to face many times. I think the verse about practice equality of self and other and practice the exchange of self and other is very interesting. Equalities of self and other is also point to some of the more subtle teaching I think is less known to the greater public, but the wisdom of equality is they say that is to fundamentally flip the mentation process that split and separate you from other to generate a conceit. Then you got ranking of like, oh, I'm less than this person, but I'm more than this person. And you got all this inequality that like I'm more than him, but I'm less than him.
Mhm.
I'm more than her, I'm less than her. I'm just like this person. All this way of like kind of being conceited, having a position and trying to compare the position to many other position. So the flip then, because there's also that mentation, that's splitting, separating process, is then you have to separate yourself from a future self, which then would be out of here. Right. So the flipped mentation, that stirring of self versus other, past versus future, present versus future, you see the equality of all of it. You see maybe that right now, even though you're in the shit and it feels very challenging, it's not like the future version of you who would get out of here, who would stop feeling like this, but you would just be strong enough to handle it. It's a very different mindset. It means that I'm not running away from this anymore. Like we're saying, like the exertion is non-withdrawal, right? I'm working the problem as the problem in the problem, and I'm going to be the solution to the problem. I'm going to will myself into the future because he is me. I am him, the one that would get out of here. So I'm not going to close my eyes and wait for a higher version of myself to come and rescue me. No, I am that version. I'm going to make it happen. Yeah, so practice that equality, practice that exchange, because the self and the other doesn't just mean other people. It could be you and other version of you as well. In the same way, it's the equality of a lesser version of ourselves, because sometimes the grandiosity or the kind of like confidence, cockiness we have is because we overcome some challenge and we thought we're the shit because previously we were like this, now we're like this, right? But sometimes that's like then we cringe toward ourselves, we reject a certain version of ourselves, we throw that person, we abandon that version in the past and say I'm no more like that. And when that version creep up again because the condition arise, we lost the heart because like, oh, I thought I would be over this by now.
Yeah, it can be so disheartening to kind of feel like you've overcome some kind of habitual pattern or tendency, and then like then in a moment of like real fatigue or maybe a stretch of weeks of fatigue, you see yourself like see that re-emerging, and you're just like, fuck. Like it's like then it's like shatters this kind of idea that you have about yourself. Yeah, lots of heart.
Gather on your being, right? Love that. Gather on your being. That's why I think John yesterday was saying a little bit about a lot of maneuvers in CC. Is first is you sit. So let's put an intention that I'm gonna sit down, I'm not gonna move, I want to face myself. So very quickly we would face defeatism. Very quickly the stuff that would come up would make us shiver or cringe or withdraw or trying to distract ourselves with whatever instead of looking at it, right? But we are asked to gather. We are asked to gather on that version, on the emotion, let them unite, let them stay together. The parts of ourselves that don't talk to each other, the part of ourselves that judge one another, let them all sit under the table.
For the third form of laziness, self-contempt, the antidote, practice the equality of self and other, practice the exchange of self and other. Call this process befriending yourself, practicing just like me. I used a commentary by Pema Chodron, a commentary on the way of the Bodhisattva, and when she was talking about these sections on laziness and their antidotes, she related this practice just like me. And so in like the depths of self-contempt, a possible antidote is to think of like just like me, there are many beings, both now and in the past and those to come, who will have this feeling of self-contempt, who will feel like just like me. And and that they also long for ease and freedom. And so the exchange of self and other And you can tie this in with like the practice of sending and receiving, or like with Tonglen too. Um, they're all very related. But yeah, I found that really helpful in the depths of other really hard and difficult emotional experiences. Is just like even mapping with the breadth of like um, all the other beings who have experienced and will experience are experiencing what I'm experiencing right now, and there's kind of like more beginner, intermediate, and advanced versions of it maybe um, yeah, how you're taking in and sending out um, relief from that suffering. And
So,
then what Khan just expounded on as far as practicing the equality of self and other.
do you have any notable personal experience when it comes to that working through your own self-contempt?
Mhm.
Maybe something more recent, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, yeah, there's a like a self-contempt for like the parts of me that I think shy away when maybe like a gift from the universe is presented for me. Like I'm like asking for something, and then it's just like a clear presentation, and then like just like oh like the shying away from or running away from um, getting exactly what I asked for, and in that there's just this whole flood of like self-loathing and deep contempt for those aspects of me, or kind of almost like the majority rule of the conference board around the circle, which is like real like hatred for those aspects of my being.
So it's like it's double-sided. It's one side is afraid when there's a sense of endowment of qualities come to you.
Mhm.
And so that version, that side of you run away out of shyness, fear, hesitation, trepidation, all that. And then the other part, look at this part of like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Now there's just this contention. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I was sharing with Tyson and Adrian today about this pattern of self-contempt was a very big thing for me to work on because there's great inequality of myself. There's always this a greater version of myself that I'm chasing. That would be better. That right now whatever I'm doing is not it. I'm always dissatisfied, you know. But then also that pressure sometimes is just not helpful to drive performance, but it just crush my spirit. And when like they're like, yeah, just being a very, very uh not a good friend to myself. Yeah, not a good friend. It's just bashing myself, just being very harsh, unnecessarily harsh.
Because there's a real difference between like having uh, a real honest reflection with yourself, or even like with a friend. Like a true friend is one who gives you that honest feedback. And sure, it may like hurt and sting to hear something, but delivering it in a way that is, you can hear and understand and comprehend. Like a real friend tells you when you're fucking up.
Yeah.
But that in that relationship with ourself, like um, when it's delivered in a way that crushes your spirit, like that's a really you wouldn't think of that as laziness, but it's like if it's crushing your spirit and crushing your momentum to use these experiences to wake up, like it's still laziness, like it's still
Mm.
um, yeah, ineffective befriending. All right,
Yeah.
so um, I've some uh, things I thought I would share from this is from Pema's commentary on the Way of the Bodhisattva, and this is something that she got from her teacher, Chogyam Trungpa. Living life is an experiment. So the way that you're relating to what you're exerting in, like how you invest in what you're doing. And it's a willingness to try this and that because you have nothing to lose. Kind of a way of relating to endeavors of if it's time for things to flourish, they will, not being caught up in for or against the outcome of something, but going forward with a sense of curiosity. And this can be, with practices, this can be with projects, this can be with relationships, like the way that you are, I don't know, your agenda, your bias for things to happen. If you can be fostering and nurturing and going with curiosity, the relationship is totally different. Really just the amount of suffering is totally different. So yeah, I really appreciated that.
I think this
Right.
this ties really well to when we were looking at John's story
Mhm.
and journey yesterday. I think he
Yeah.
really embodied this,
Yes,
like just
yeah, he really does.
one experiment after the other. Yeah,
Exactly.
willing to try, but also like due diligence in terms of like, okay, what should I try? Not just like going in without research,
Mhm.
and yeah, going forward
Yeah.
with more and more curiosity. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because it's not just like I don't know, lackadaisical or just like, I don't know, like loose, like it's not to like just operate without any constraints, but it's just like, when you're trying something, it's still an experiment. Like you still want to generate a hypothesis and try to
Measure it, right?
yeah, measure it.
Yeah. Say I have 90 days to do this. This is the objective. I brainstorm on the agenda that I can potentially do, but then out of all this, can I prioritize out of these 30 things that I could be doing? Maybe 3 out of 30 would be helpful that I can move the needles. And out of these three, what would it look like if I could accomplish it? I set out that agenda, and then to do these things, what is the thing what are the variables that I can control to say move the needles, be it fitness, be it health, be it relationship, and all the things, right? And then if I do it after 3 months, throughout the 3 months, if I can try consistently, can I troubleshoot and iterate based on the data that's coming in? Like, okay, that's not working. Let me try this now. Okay, this is not working, but I learned this. So now based on this, I will do this. And from all these things, now we come together by 3 months. We sit down, we do a debrief with ourselves, write down like, okay, 3 months ago, I said I'm going to do this, this, and this. This turned out not like I expected. This I overachieved, and it brought me a lot of joy. But wait a minute, most likely I haven't done anything. Rarely we actually execute like this. Rarely, even though we all know this is like good practice.
And then the last notes in this section. So you got a message from just being flexible with effort. I would say so. Or it's being flexible with outcomes. It's like being more process oriented.
Process oriented.
And like having outcomes still as, maybe to give like some structure or give kind of, to help establish what the process is. Because if you want to hit some kind of performance target, whether that be like a physical exertion or even maybe to like access, certain jhana states or whatever, some kind of performance outcome, you still have to then bring that back to a process orientation. If you want to have stability or access to specific states of absorption, like you probably are going to have to set up the container in which you develop enough momentum to hit those. So it's like no matter what outcomes you have, there's, I think, just like a bringing it back to a process orientation and then the flexibility within that to adapt to like where you're actually at.
being scientific about it, right?
Yeah, being scientific about it.
Yes, sir. I think um many times for whatever reason, no, sorry, many times be it like a physical training regimen, be it working as a project manager, be it, just taking care of our life, we cultivate a lot of the skill to perform, execute function, plan, execute, report for everything, right? But very rarely we think about doing that for meditation and awakening. Suddenly, when it comes to meditation, it's just so vague. So vague. But clearly, you have demonstrated to yourself in your own transformation of whatever area or medium that is, that you can do it. You can change. Yeah, but we don't transfer that skill into this meta skill. So people, we have so many. I think Anthony also mentioned, yeah, like I'm sure people in Wall Street and all these entrepreneurs that make decent money have all these skills of execute orders. They can plan, they can plan, they can follow the plan, they can troubleshoot the plan, they can adapt, all these things. They can learn over time, they can build SOPs, they can build best practices. But when it's to apply that into this fundamental structure of yourself, most people don't do it.
Yeah. And I feel like, before being in CC, it all felt very nebulous. Like it's just like, I'm pulling from these different like teachers or these different techniques, or it's just like everything kind of feels or felt like um really hard to pin down. Like I understood like exertion and training and how to be very precise and targeted in like adaptations and how to auto regulate and like, but it's just like then with meditation, it's just like I don't know, like blindfold or like crawling through the mud. Like it just like it's very disorienting to know how to systematically train and how to build best practices. Um,
I mean, we can't speak about this. It's just because yesterday one of the mentor meet one of the one of the people interested in the bootcamp, and they asked Chunhong. So Chunhong was the mentor. They asked Chunhong like, "Well, why are you guys so confident? Oh, what's going on with you guys? Why are you so confident?" I mean, it's because of Mei Chang, right? It's because really he and his accomplishment put us in a trajectory that was like, okay, it is possible to be very clear about things, everything. It's also possible to be clear about what we don't know. So we just talk about what we know. Yeah. And we are clear that that unknown territory we are not prioritizing knowing that right now. So we just pace ourselves even in our development. So it doesn't have to be this vast, vague, conceptually fuzzy, kind of just everything goes and just very loose, like just very loose, wobbly dobbly, kind of like, yeah.
it's last slide on this section. Emma, delight in virtue. So, and this can look like a few, different things, but for Pema, delight in virtue is working wisely with emotions, learning to gently tame the mind, and reaching out with kindness and support with a sense of eagerness and not duty. And a quote from her is, with a shift toward eagerness, life takes on a new meaning, not the meaning of career or relationship, but the meaning that comes from using everything that happens as an opportunity to wake up. And I really appreciated her tone because I feel like this kind of approach is the process of befriending yourself. Like this is how you get all of the aspects of your being to agree up to a common project to make a vertical leap to pop out of a trajectory that otherwise would just like keep you spinning.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I think don't remember when, but we were talking about how Lamelina, she was asked by a student which technique, which practice should I follow? You teach so many techniques and there's so many traditions I can borrow from. Which one? And she said very simply, whichever technique that bring the most enthusiasm, do that. Yeah. Because I think like she's talking about this eagerness.
Mhm.
Because with eagerness, we have the drive of curiosity, not just duty, right? Not just something we should do, which then, okay, a lot of us is very dutiful that we can, endure that dutiful. I know I should do this, so I will discipline myself to do it. But we're not eager. We're not like waking up excited like Frank to meditate.
Yeah.
So how do we find that flip, right? What does it
Yeah.
mean to genuinely be eager and be curious?
Mhm. Yeah.
Have fun with it. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that's the flip that I was able to make in my relationship with resistance and my own like training and physicality was once I was able to flip and make like basically just listen to the signal that my mind body system was attuning to, where that eagerness was going. And both on a macro scale and a micro scale, session to session, following that as my target. And what happened was just a compounding effect of consecutive, really nourishing sessions. It was just like every session felt like this kind of masterpiece of reading all of the conditions of my life stressors, my sleep, my nutrition, how fatigued I am from the previous session, what my goals are, what kind of like it's okay to want muscle. It's okay to like want to look jacked. It's like that because I also for a while I was like, oh, I shouldn't want that. Um, and every session just felt like this masterpiece where I was just like in tune with what what would be the most nourishing for me, and doing that for months on months on months, compounding growth. Um, yeah, I hit a second growth spurt, which um, I'll tie back into it. So we already touched on this in the first part of the call. So, but in the beginning, when I started training, there was a lot of the fuel source was a deep sense of inadequacy. Like there was this real hope that strength, having a stronger body, and being like more desirable as like a partner or potential partner would like fill this deep sense of, um, yeah, kind of like hating my own body. And and then through these various different identities, these different structures of performance, football player, bodybuilder, powerlifter, strongman, functional mover. There's just like these cycles, but each time, it's like a spiral. It's like it's still looping around identities, but maybe each time getting a little bit more cognizance, self-reflection on how, because it's not that you need to like avoid getting these identity structures. It's just like, can you recognize, can you build the cognizance around the process of following interest, expressing through that interest, and how eventually through change, that interest will change. Like and that's just a part of the process. So it's just like relating to these relationships, your relationship, how you're relating to these experiences. And for me, I think there was a radical shift, or maybe radical change in the rate of that process in my year of the towel. That time spent not having the normal things that I could identify with as performance and metrics and outcomes, and having to rely very much on what, like following the tune and signal of enthusiasm and enjoyment. So transformation of relationship with resistance, uncovering gifts of wisdom, how to recruit being, yeah, with enthusiasm. And so I took the lessons of that year of the towel and then began applying them to just traditional training, everything that I learned up until that point through exercise degree and all of my training, my own body and bodies of others. And And what I was just talking about is this compounding effect of having being in tune with enthusiasm. And I, for a while, was calling my style of training intuitive training, which I think is appropriate to an extent, but I think using by focusing just on the intuition piece, I'm probably underselling all of what's under the hood as far as like systematic, like understanding of exercise science as a whole, in terms of having these different fitness qualities that you layer on in terms of the timing of things, like all of that's under the hood, but then within that structure there's this intuition of dosage, of the amount that will move the needle without, but also allow me to train again soon and hard. And then centering this sense of play or enjoyment. And the third principle of practicing continuous consent with self, which for me is this process of like between every set, there is this kind of willingness to adjust and to auto-regulate my training decisions of like whether to go up and do another set, whether to go up and do another set, whether to like back off. And like it's just like building attunement with my mind-body system. And so yeah, it was kind of, it was a fun experience for me because I'm training out of this gym that's a bunch of pretty hardcore people, a lot of like athletes competing at a high level in many endeavors. There's like top 10 bodybuilder in the world competing on the Olympia stage. There's high level powerlifters. There's like world record holder strongmen. There's like top athletes in all these different classes. And after 12 months into this training style, it's like people start to notice and people start to ask like, what are you taking? Like, so what cycle did you start? Like people are asking me like if I'm taking steroids and what drugs I'm on, because they notice like, I put on a significant amount of muscle mass in a timeline that seemed unnatural. Because I was just like so in tune with what my body and my like what I could handle. And so it's like the biggest compliment you can get is like, bro, when did you get on the sauce? Like it's working.
Get accused.
So yeah, I was competed at the like Minnesota's strongest, the Minnesota State Championships in strongman. And I got fourth. And in strongman, it's not tested, so you can take whatever substances you want, and
Damn.
there's no like penalty in it. And I zeroed out on the first event. It was a log press where you roll the log up your body and press it. And I remember I felt so weird that day. Like it was like this crazy like storm system that was coming through. Like the final event got canceled, and like my whole body felt like I was like sick. Anyway, I made the mistake of not I should have taken a really easy, because they just like keep upping the weight. It's like everyone gets to attempt it, and I missed my opening attempt, and so I got a 0 for that. And even if I would have put any number on the board, I would have done well. So basically, all the other events, like here's the yoke. There was the Atlas Stone. There's a farmer's carry with a sled drag. You have like 250 pounds in each hand, plus like a sled with like 400 pounds, and you're just like, so I did well enough in all the other events and zeroing in the first event that I still got like fourth.
Okay.
So it's just like this like expression of really like high level performance. And it was all sustainable. Like I was like, it was the best I'd ever felt. Like my body, I mean, injury is a normal part of the process, but it's just like, it was proof to me that like these principles, they work. Like this isn't just about like feeling good. This is also like performing at a high level. So
I gotta see like I've got to put it together a show like you, Taylor, Adam, Frank, John have a bench off. Like I see that shit. Live stream that shit, have a bench off. Like just one after the other, one after the other, after the other. Because I think Frank can still bench really, really well.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Do we still have more slides after this? I don't really remember.
Yeah, so just it's the summary of it, of that exertion is required. It's not optional in this training, and it's sustained and stoked through self-befriendment and cultivated through enjoyment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Shout out
So
Tyson.
you
Yeah,
should
very,
enjoy
very
it.
beautiful story and beautiful sharing.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. Some time for some question. Woohoo. We got one question coming from Anthony.
Mhm.
Khan, as you say, you wake up with darkness, depression, laziness in the morning. You can't do anything without energy and no enthusiasm. How are you struggling with this? Now I'm facing this. Maybe I'm telling myself that's a question of vision, external motivation, and goals work for me. I want to feel unsuccessful, so I'd rather get out of bed. Funny you asked that. I would say that since doing this live stream show, I've been feeling great. Like I've been feeling actually really, really good, and I've been waking up with excitement. I was just telling my wife about like something is changed. And it was really after I start my day with the live stream. I made a couple of decisions to, I was just after the first day of live stream. Yeah, I infected him. After the first live stream on day one, I present. It was really coming together of many things, similar like my love for scholastic learning, academia. I took a really long time to even admit to myself that I like that stuff. I like research, and I like just putting things together and just building a show out of it. It took me a long time to even admit that. Yeah. So, but I did that, and I think the reception from you guys, from people commenting on things, it made me realize that, wait a minute, I was just being myself for 3 hours, really just showcasing in the last 4 months, even more than that, right? But the vast majority of the focus was on the last 4 months and how I'm seeing things, how I'm calibrating things. It got me to feel really at ease in terms of being myself. And then that night, I decided to make my Instagram public, and I decided to follow a lot of Vietnamese people. For the longest time, I don't follow any Vietnamese people. I only follow like the people who's in this lane that I call spirituality. Because when I was growing up, I always feel like I am very, very isolated and alienated because I didn't find much resonance from others when I share about my interest with these things. But in that day, I was like, I don't care about their validation enough to be a problem anymore. I still care some, but it's not registering to be like I need it. I prefer it. Of course, I have a preference of people liking me. That'd be cool. But in that day, I was just like, wait a minute, I've been carrying this outdated system because a lot of that ideas about disconnect and all that was coming from high school. So when I just sit with that pain, and when I was, because it was in a session, I was sitting when I make these kind of decisions and I contemplate, my right side, my body really felt in a lot of spasm and pain for the first time, because always that I was sharing story many times on my left side and all these things, blah, 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 blah. I shared before the surgery and all these, the left side was in problem. But the first time ever that my right side is the side that's in pain. And suddenly the pain distribution on the body just recontextualized. And there's an uplifting of energy. And yeah, there's just relieving sense. So I would say that a lot of times for me, previously, there's this cloud of darkness of not being able to accept myself, my situation, my environment, that leads to this heaviness. But I mean, it's also not an overnight thing, right? I've been building up to that presentation with the training in academia for more than a year. I've been working on my embodiment with Tyson for more than 6 months. I've been working in CC for 3 years. I've been meditating for blah, 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 all those things. So it's not like an overnight thing, but it did shift it quite recently with this thing. Because also with this live stream series, it's our decision at CC to be public, like really engaging with you guys in depth, right? In talking plenty of space, like getting to know our audience, where you guys coming from, what's going on with you guys. And we're just trying to meet people instead of, cocooning in, because we see that a lot of communities are just cocoon into their own corner and not having open dialogue. So we make this free. Whoever want to sign up can sign up. And we make this a demonstration so that if we are serious about this, we can join a boot camp and we train together. So a lot of this decision to be engaged, to be open, to be leaning in more and more over time has led to a successive steps of feeling relieved, at ease, and more enthusiastic, I would say. So at least for now, I see a lot of condition that would lead to me waking up with that dread, but it has been less and less and less so far. So it could be many angles, right, Anthony? Many angles, many different aspects of it. It could be, like you're saying about external validation, us not wanting to fail people. It could be the sense of disconnect from our environment. It could be a sense of like inadequacy, like Tyson was detailing. With many things, many things. For me, it was a lot of things. I think for Tyson as well, right? I think also recently you kind of make a switch in how you want to show up. I think a lot of us, every one of us that is on this live stream, be it Frank, be it John, be it me, and be it Tyson, kind of made a switch to do this. Because collectively, I pitched the team of like, I think this time that we do this show, I think it's going to change things for us, but I think we're ready to make that call. Because this show we put together in like 24 hours notice. It was Wednesday. It was like, let's do this. And then they're like, okay, let's do it. How about the feeling of not feeling good enough? If I'm not achieving things and success, I feel down depressed. I would say that's an accurate feeling. I do feel I'm not good enough because I'm not good enough. That's it. I mean, well, what's the problem if you're not good enough? Then you just improve, right? That's an accurate emotion.
Yeah, it's tricky to navigate that without it leading to a loss of enthusiasm, like lots of motivation. Like you can, if there's a threshold of performance, especially if there's like stakes involved, like I mean with Taylor, he's a firefighter. It's like there's a standard of performance and there's people's lives on the line. And if like you don't meet that standard, then you probably shouldn't be a firefighter, or maybe you should like take a break, chill, train, get your health together, get your life together if you want to do a certain job. But you could also take that rejection or like take that as like just a plummet into defeatism.
Yeah. The sense of not good enough is very interesting. I think maybe I can invite Adam to speak a little bit about that, because I think tomorrow with Adrian sharing, I think Adam, you're a part of that building up. And I know you and Adrian have a conversation about, especially as man and as masculinity, we want to be providing structure and certainty, right? So when you don't feel good enough, that sense of structure collapse. So before Adam share, I can share a little bit about like the my process of working on that. So earlier in 2025, I was riding very high in confidence because a lot of breakthrough in terms of yogic achievement and the capacity to absorb was greatly enhanced after 2 cycles of bootcamp training. But Mei Chang set me aside and say something that was really kind of like surprised me. He said something about, Han, you care more about the perception of how good you are than how good you are actually. Like it's not enough for you just to know. You need other people to also know about it. Like you have an enmeshment problem. The sense of inadequacy comes from the perception of others onto you instead of your own judgment of inadequacy. So that was very difficult to hear, difficult to process, but because I was at the very high of confidence, maybe he timed it so that I can only hear that advice and that pointing out when I was very like, have a good self structure. So after hearing that, the invitation is that now you need to train. You need to train with Tyson. Tyson also approached me like, hey, I think we can do something here. So I was sharing that for the first really 2 months of training with Tyson, he asked me to train in the way of you leave 2 reps in reserve, and I couldn't find that. I couldn't find what it means to have 2 reps in reserve. I always go to failure because I feel like if I don't go to failure, I'll be a failure. Like I would be not putting my own into it. So it's very difficult for me to like have something that's still in the tank. For whatever like psychological reason, I always need to feel like I must be very tired, otherwise it doesn't count. Like, yeah, I guess that when I'm training, the karma of inadequacy will show up. And when I'm in that karma, I can't pace myself. I will just go into failure. I would just manifest that inadequacy of, see, I did not accomplish that. I would just time and time again, Tyson was like, okay, can you record? Because I'm in Vietnam and he's in Minnesota, right? So I record the last set, like the peak weight to see where the form breakout or how smooth can I execute on the reps. And I would always broke the form like in the last set. And then we say like okay, dial it back, lose the weight, stop, lose the weight, lose the weight, lose the weight until I can find just the right dose of like, you mean training can just be like this and be sustainable? And Tyson like, yeah. I was like, what? The sense of adequate. I didn't know what it means to be enough. Like I literally, my body do not know what it means to be enough, even though I got set a target, I agreed to the target, but when I actually exercise, it just constantly try to overshoot to compensate. Like, no, I'm not that weak. I can do more. But like, bro, you are that weak. Like, it's okay. You are that weak. But when you accept being that weak, you have an actual shot of developing that upward. So that was like the first 2 months of training just to be psychologically ready to accept that truth. After that, then the momentum started to kick in and I started to like build more sustainable fire, enthusiasm. I started to look forward to the gym. I started to like, like research and even like do actual work of going running, not just lifting, and do a lot of these and started to change my relationship with my body. But then after I moved to the state, the stress gets in, and once again, the defeatism comes back. It's like, oh my God, I know it. I know I can't do it, blah, 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 and all these things. And it's difficult again. And once again, I forgot like the karma of inadequacy is coming again. And immediately I go to failure all the time. I can't pace myself so that I can digest the pain in the right dosage. I just always overshoot. So very recently now is recognizing this, committing to 2 reps in reserve again, and actually let the weak side decide what is enough, not the stronger side, the right side. Actually, I left the left, be it like one lateral raise, be it like a row, or be it like a incline dumbbell bench press. Let the weak side decide the tempo. Let the weak side decide how much weight I can handle, and from that, it actually allow just a much more nourishing and a sustainable relationship with the weight. And from that, it builds a very different relationship with inadequacy. But this took me 8 months, first 2 months just to get ready to handle training. 2 months after that, then now actually going through the first hurdle of all the karma that I stored up about inadequacy, and then 2 months really stack up momentum to then lose momentum, and now the last 2 months is kind of like rekindling it with a new understanding, with new stressor. Because life got harder for me when I got into the state, because now I do CC and work. Before in Vietnam, I just only do CC, so it was less thing for me to do. Yeah. But yeah, I would maybe I can invite Adam to share about this, because yeah.
Yeah, if you could maybe frame a question so I have kind of a starting reference point.
Yeah, I guess it's like the question is gearing towards how do we deal with the sense of not being good enough? Or how has that challenge show up for you as well? And just I think you refer to it as like in order to be in order to come to maturity as a man, you must accept that you have a little bitch
Yeah.
inside of you. This is a tough language, but
Hmm.
it is that kind of flavor, right? Which is the bitch is not just to declaratory term against women in that way. Is the version that is cowardice, is the version that whines, is the version that, you know, look for ways out, is the version that's not honest.
Yeah, I've always practiced from this perspective, kind of talking about having two in reserve. I've actually always done that from starting very young and training because I never wanted to it was like an opposite kind of fear. Like I didn't want to look like I failed, right? So like I'd push just far enough to where I can achieve it and not look like I failed. Now, accidentally, it worked out for me that I was able to push that kinetic energy to the point where I was breaking a lot of barriers very quickly. It was not intentional. I don't think most people find that very naturally. Um, but it wasn't until recently where I defined it as what Khan just said. It's like, oh, like we all have LBS. Like, I think when we can admit we have LBS and really accept and lean into what that means viscerally in anything that we do, like you'll break barriers, and LBS is this, it's little bit syndrome. We all got it, right? And that shows up in so many ways. Sometimes it feels very logical. One thing I've learned about my mind is that the more logical I try to sound, it's actually the more emotional I am. Just mass. I'm just trying to hide something by sounding logical. We see it all over the world for things, but I think for ourselves, that LBS shows up in many ways. It can be like, oh, I've done a good job. I'm gonna go have pizza again. Well, you had pizza yesterday. Yeah, but yeah, I worked out really hard. What'd you do? I did one more push-up. That's it, really. And like it shows up all these funny ways of rewarding ourselves or whatever, right? And I don't want to get into money too much because that's a good one. Um, but it's just kind of admitting that weakness is really what it is. The reason I call it little bitch syndrome is because no one wants to be considered a little bitch. But if you can just say, "Hey, I'm a little bitch," like you lean into a little bit more, or find your verbiage would insult yourself. And it's not about depreciating. It's not about that. It's just being like so raw. Like if you were on the other side, let's say your ultimate form, looking down and knowing you're so capable. And what's the most direct way? Like, dude, you're just being a fucking bitch right now. Like, fuck, I fucking am. But it's hard. It's like, yeah, it's fucking hard. But you make it harder by being a little bitch. It is hard, but don't make it hard. It's kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've leaned into that more, even though I've accomplished so much physically, even in business and things, but just leaning into that uh perspective and just being okay with it. Because then you're okay failing. Because you can't get anything done without failing. Like,
It's kind of like pulling the Eminem move in 8 Miles, right?
yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like take the ammunition away from the defeatism. Like, yeah, I accept the worst version of myself. It is still bad. Like, I'm not delusional about like excusing myself from the poor quality of my performance or the characters that require many refinements. It still require refinement. It's like we're not doing that just sweeping things under the table and just excuse everything away with love and light in that way, right? The poor version of ourselves, the impoverished, malnourished version of self is still the worst version of ourselves. Yeah. So it requires like much patience, acceptance, radical honesty, because there's also that side of us that is extremely judgmental towards ourselves.
Mm.
Even if that means that the judgmental is right now, we're doing our best at suspending that judgment of like, no, don't judge, please, don't judge. But what if you do judge yourself? Then what do you do?
Hmm. And a lot of things that over the years for me, I won't say the book now because Adrian will probably bring it up tomorrow. So a good reason to show up tomorrow. Adrian's gonna drop a lot of gold when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But there's a really,
maturity, like the masculine integration of a lot of aspect of
yeah,
ourselves. Yeah, tomorrow will be that.
really, really good book that I'm sure he'll cover.
Tomorrow we'll be talking about, I think the book name is Kings, Warriors, Magician, and Lover. Yeah. The masculine archetypes and how it shows up. What is the immature version of it? What is the shadow side of it? Like malfunctioning, become tyrant, become weakling, become sadist, or become cowardice. It's only kind of like lopsided. Any comment or question from you guys regarding to Tyson sharing about exertion? Oh, I think there's more comments in the chat. Okay, there is a question there from Samal. Can you speak to more about your sense of inadequacy and what broke through that? I think I was also sharing a little bit about that. I feel like going through a huge phase of inadequacy with every aspect of my life and resisting the urge to defeat, I guess, like to succumb to defeatism and give up and just live the easy life of suffering. That's very interesting, right? The life of suffering is actually the easy version of it. You just kind of like snooze. Because when we try to wake up, why does my eye hurt? Like Neil will ask, because you never used them before. Yeah, I can relate with a lot to that. I'll tell you guys a moment for me of inadequacy is very recent as well. It's like I was trying to think of, I don't know, if you guys have business building experience, it's hard, right? So when I was reflecting, like, why people not showing up and like not engaging with CC more? I was just trying to rack my head around it, and I just sit in my apartment, wallowing in that. Like maybe I'm not leading the team well enough. Maybe not putting a thing that is valuable enough, and maybe it's like sometimes like starting to blame the audience, starting to like blah 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 blah, or just starting to cook myself in that inadequacy, just hatred and this wanting to give up. And it actually made me bust out laughing. This is ridiculous. I'm tripping. Like I'm tripping on my own delusion right now. It's like it's so funny. It's immediately is bye-bye, Roger. It's switched to being funny, being comical of a situation. Man, this is just the first of the many times that we're doing this. And sure, it's the well, we suck, right? Like I'm being very honest. It's a lot of things that we're doing at CC in terms of content and production of how our message, our packaging of all these things come out. I'm sure 1 year from now we look back and just be pathetic. But I was letting that judgment, which is an accurate judgment, let me down the loop of emotionality, and that cloud my rationality, that cloud my decision making process. But we do that, right? When the stress really hits, we can't think straight anymore. And we become prone to delusions, prone to hysteria, prone to catastrophizing, like Tyson was saying. Now, luckily for me, I have a team that is extremely supportive. And luckily for me, that I've been training quite consistently in yogic absorption, so I can cook myself in that. But me being 2 years ago, I would just let that like try to give up. And in order to build CC to this moment, there are at least 3 occasions where I think about quitting everything. At least 3 occasions. I'm like, hey, Frank, let's end this. Because it got too much. And I was just like, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. So yeah, then in Tyson's perspective, like he was sharing, those could be categorized as laziness because it's not being effective right now. There could be that, self-contempt, being judgmental in a way that is not effective. It could be defeatism, maybe taking on too much that we can handle, or not having the right kind of pacing so you can digest as you chew, like as you chew through your problems. Like pick one battle at a time that you that you can manage, being a little smarter and being more patient. Because I was saying, right, a lot of times that the exertion feels too overwhelming. Maybe it's because the ground of merit is not laid out well enough. Or maybe we're not generous with ourselves right now. Give ourselves a little more time. Give ourselves a little bit more room of improvement. Maybe we're not clear about what is right and wrong for us right now. And it's just kind of like clouding everything. We don't know which way to go, right? So we need to like get clarity. A lot of times just a pen and a paper, writing down. That's what I did. But after that hysteria, I just like broke down all these paper and just brainstorm. Like, okay, marketing ideas. And then I wrote live stream for 7 days. And then we do it. Let's see if I can pull out the exact one. Here. What is it? 30 ideas to brutally drive sales. That's what I wrote down. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Because I was sitting like, oh my God, we can't do anything to drive sales anymore. We did everything we can. Hell no, we did. It's like, so number 1, help CC, help a friend. Tell them to Discord. Number 2, help us make the best gift. Number 3, I just go on and on and on and on, just work myself out of that defeatism. And then like listing out all these things, one other thing we did circle is like, number 1, free workshop. Number 2, free consultation with a mentor. We did do that. Number 3, 24/7 live stream. We did take that idea like, okay, tone it down a little bit. Can't do 24/7 because I was first like, what if I just do 24/7 live stream or just live stream the entire day, answer everybody's question? That would do it. That would do it. That would drive sales. I'm like, okay, just do 3 hours. I'll do it. 24 hours live stream, 7 days straight. Answer every question. Yeah. So from that, yeah, we have ideas and things like that. Yeah. Sometimes it just requires us to sit down and think things through, right? That's what I did before as well. I was like, I don't have money. 30 ideas to make money in 90 days. I need to make money right now. I did whatever it took to make enough money. Legally.
Yeah, kind of feel like in what you just shared is a really good example of using all of your resources, using your intellect, your humor, like you're like gathering your being. Like yeah, and what you described for that was like self-defeatism. Like it's a really tangible example of how to do that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, and I do believe that try being an actor to make money. Bro, what do you think I'm doing right now? This is just me acting. I don't care about these stuff. This is a persona. I'm very different in real life. Yeah, I mean, like when we actually think about it, is we could be much more resourceful than we think, right? Oh, I think the thing that did switch for me though was that I must be able to accept the bottom before I think my way out of it. I must accept that. Maybe this whole, process of making CC public, public practice week, all these things not going as well as we could. That's fine. We of course it's not fine in a certain way, but it's also fine at the same time. We accept that, we move forward, and we drive ourselves out of the hole. But maybe it takes longer than I initially expected. But I accept that, and then I say, but do we still have time? And I realize we still have time, and then voila, we do 7 days live stream because we still have time, right? It's like that kind of like golden buzzer, like not a golden buzzer, like a 3 seconds on the dashboard, still making some plays, right? Still make something happen. That kind of last minute, I still have something to give. How many? Like, let me have one more. Let me have one more. Just one more idea. Just one more execution. Just one more hour. Focused work, intentionality. What can I do? Like, what can I do to get myself out of here? I just really sit down and like muster all the strength that I have to do something about it. Yeah. Otherwise, like, what are we gonna do? Just wallowing in our pity? I mean, I do that very often. I even time. I'm like, today is a good day to sit in the shower and just like be depressed. I did that many times. Like when it get very stressful, I'm like, today is a good day. Like I'll wallow a little bit. I'll time my wallow. I'll time my self pity because I know I'll be doing that. That's my pattern. When it gets stressful, I do that. I'm like, okay, and like play some Marvin Room Drake shit. Like just wallow, be pity. So we have those patterns, right? You just accept that part and let it have some breathing room, let it express in a way that's well contained. And then once that cleared up a little bit emotionality, now we have a more cool head on our shoulder. We drive, we move forward. It's hard to build momentum and keep momentum, right? I think that's the whole point of today. Tyson is talking about the many different aspects of how to nurture this momentum because it is a precious thing that we even have the interest to talk about awakening. Very precious, and it will go out if we don't take care of it. So I was talking about like I know sometimes we say like reincarnation is not in style. I mean, Buddha Dharma has been imported like I was presenting in day one for 40 years, something more than 40 years now, but it still hasn't accepted this idea of reincarnation. But if we deploy that lens, then we say that this interest of yours in awakening is not just you, it's many versions of you before this life that has chosen to go in this direction, and you have a responsibility for those beings to finish the job. It's not just you. It's just like you think that you just born with intellect and curiosity out of nowhere. You think those things don't have decisions momentum before. But very often that we are the heir of our own karma. We inherit the karma of our ancestor, not just blood ancestor, but karmic ancestor as well. Whatever that version, whatever the being that is, it doesn't even matter that we do have past life regression techniques to see the memories or not. It doesn't matter. Just see like right now what you're interested in, and you are here. That means you're interested in awakening. So that probably means that, especially when you look around and you see friends and family, they don't share this, and just somehow you're an anomaly that you just pop out of nowhere and you're interested in this. right? So in the lens of reincarnation, one of the way we can see karma is that, yeah, that probably means that you are inherit a lot of will, a lot of interest from the forebearers that come before you. But now you are just throwing it away. That's the risk. That's like the master that shook you, like, contemplate, remember, don't let yourself down. You've done it before. You let yourself down before. Remember.
Yeah, I remember one of my teachers would tell me often, like, this precious human birth being like, this is from a sutra, like from the Buddha, but like this precious human birth being like a turtle that comes to the surface of the water once every 1,000 years. And one of those times it rests as it comes up out of the water, it rests its head like on a piece of driftwood. And that's how like precious this human birth is. That's not even to speak of this precious human birth that is interested in awakening.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's almost in an impossibility, right? Because one aspect of the path that when we slow things down and we examine is like, I can't really find a good reason why I would want this, but I do want it. I don't really understand why I would want it, because after we like clear things about like the not for happiness angle, we almost see that what is it about the drive for evolution that wants this? It's very strange because it's not for any kind of materialistic gains. Why would you want liberation? Because after you're not confused anymore, right? Because some people are confusing with, like accomplishing great powers and like capacity to influence life so that you live a comfortable life, like we were talking about yesterday with the John's cases of many people got warned on the path of cultivation that you would be sidetracked, you would be distracted, and you would go round and round and round and actually just cultivate all these things just for your own gains. You warn against that. Once we clear on that, and like today, Tyson with the mere exertion, like when you clear that, okay, effort to build a good life is still not it. It just will still keep you entrapped in that. After you know this, you still choose to lean in, then sure, one way we can kind of make it a little bit cinematic and poetic and saying like choosing our own death, die before we die, and all these things. But it's still uncertain, right? It still feel like crazy talk. Why would you want this? Even if you know that it will be the end of you and the beginning of something that you cannot conceive of. Why would you want that? It's like you're signing a contract to be deleted. Yeah. So on these different aspects, on these yeah, why would you want truth? It's a strange thing to desire. Not just that, after you have realized self-emptiness, why would you want to engage with the monk again? Why would you even consider the way of the bodhisattva? Why would you cultivate all these things? Blah, 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 blah. Like the path just gets like, sure, it get clarified, but as it clarifies, it also deepens in its mystery. So this kind of like early sense of certainty, like I know exactly what the path is about. I don't know. Maybe we can get ontologically shook when the rock of certainty get removed. Because yeah, I guess one function of these live stream is giving a fair warning that this is what's going on with CC. We're doing this for 90 days. This is just a taser. This is a little taste of it. Inside there is more heavy hitters. Behind the veil, you choose the linen. Well, yeah. Matthias is coming on YouTube. The path is like 100 flaws iPhone game. Fucked up. Just flaw after flaw after flaw. Just ah. Yeah. Craving for authenticity. It's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like Tyson was just saying about like there is some sort of a precious rarity about you have the taste for something that is impossible to convince other people to want it. This can be the root of a lot of loneliness because you want to bring your loved one along, and it's hard. If you do want to bring them along, you're going to take a lot out of you. Therefore, the way of the bodhisattva, the cultivation. Right? Not turning the blind eyes toward the suffering of others, actually doing something about the situation, actually leading yourself and others out of suffering. But leading requires many skills, right? Leading requires, having high level of discernment, knowing the terrain, having the intel, having the resource, planning ahead, having high adaptability, extremely strategic, right? Multiple plans, right? Can adapt on the fly, having humility and curiosity, being okay with being wrong and stupid. So many things. Yeah. Yeah, shout out Matt saying on YouTube, thank you, Tyson and Khan and everyone participating. Insane that this was a free session, actually. I would say, I don't know. I talked with Tyson and Adrian earlier today. I checked with them because they're much more, know about the fitness communities and all these things. But I was just curious, like, hey, do anybody in fitness talking about this? Like, because I don't know, maybe like if a person trained in fitness for 40 years, would they have escape velocity of on the muscle you build, on the mobility you build, on the functionality you build, on the health and longevity and the biohacking you have installed, on the habits you have developed, and now you can sustain it. You've done all of that. Now what? Or maybe some like Tyson. It's like, okay, out of it. So we got really two more presentations. One would be on the masculine maturity, and maybe I can clarify a little bit that tomorrow masculine maturity from Adrian, one of our upcoming mentor. He's also just finished 2 bootcamp cycle. You can also listen to his story on one of the episode I did. I talked to Adrian and then Nikki after that. But when we talk about the masculinity, sure, we can correlate masculine means male for the most part, but I think that's a little bit like rigid definition, right? It's more apt to say we both have masculine and feminine energy and archetype as our that formulate our beings. So what we mean by masculinity here, it means to be able to be assertive, decisive, to be able to lead, to be able to create order, while we say the feminine side of it is the ability to be indeterminate, to be open. And these two things, they come together to form the whole complete psychology. Usually it will represent by like, this is a male and that's masculine, and that's a female, that's a feminine. usually we understand it like that. But if we really look within ourselves, we have certain side of us that's very indeterminate, that is so-called open for interpretation, that is shape-shifting. But there is a side that is like, nope, this is what it's about. Decide, assert. So tomorrow we look at the side that is finding that certainty, finding the rule, taking on the throne of the monarch, of being able to be the king of your own reality. And yeah, be able to lead, because right now, I guess we're living in a modern time where there is this equality that whether you're a man, woman, or whatever, you're expected to lead yourself out of your own confusion. Just across the board, everybody lead themselves now. So I believe in that way, tomorrow presentation will be a deep dive into the psychological aspect of things and how we can walk ourselves through this process of individuation, becoming an individual that knows oneself, that knows your pattern, and can have the tools and the roadmaps and the markers on the path to be able to like, okay, this is where I'm lacking in development, and I need to boost up on that. Yeah. So with that, thank you guys so much for the presentation. Shout out Tyson again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. 4 days left for this promotion run, and hopefully to see more people showing up on a bootcamp. There are still a few seats that wait for you. Bye-bye, guys. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for showing up.